Hello friends and welcome to part 3 of my ESL Masters Regionals run in the European region. Last time we left off at my series against Wayne in the upper bracket, which I managed to win 3-0. And as a result, I got to play a beautiful best of 5 against probably the best player that we have currently in Europe, given that Cyril is in the military, and that is Clem. Also in my worst matchup, so a best of 5 versus Clem. Something I don't wish upon my my worst enemies, but of course I had some shenanigans prepared, and I actually went back into the into the box of bollocks, the box of crap that I have, and I watched some of my older VODs to figure out some strategies that I liked, and I decided on playing a relatively standardish Phoenix Colossus type of opener. I felt like that was going to be my best chance to beat Clem, and then really try and kind of blind counter his responses and try to get just ahead in the early game and finish the game in the mid game. Going into the late game against Clem, I have tried many times in the past 2 months, and whenever we get there, I just don't manage to win. So I could try to play a proper macro game and go for it, but I decided, you know what? I want to really focus on going for mid-game timings, killing my opponent before he can get to any decent Liberator, Ghost or Viking count. Ideally before the 10-minute mark, I want the game to end, because otherwise it's going to be difficult for me. My win rate goes down very, very rapidly the longer the games last versus Clem. So that was really my general plan. In practice, I hadn't been performing super hot before this series. That doesn't always say that you're gonna lose or that life is gonna be rough, but it does suck a little bit if the practice isn't going too well, especially because the people I'm practicing with are going to be significantly worse than Clem, because there's simply no one at Clem's level in Europe, which is another very frustrating thing. For Clem, it's relatively easy for practice to find practice, some protos at my level basically, but for me it's impossible to find practice at Clem's level. The only way for me to get it is to play on the American servers and fight against Koreans, although they are often very busy, and also playing with ping is quite annoying. It's not the same experience at all as playing versus someone on low ping is. So generally not a huge fan of it. I did try it a little bit. I played some games against Beyond because he's my teammate. He helps me out. But yeah, all of that didn't go too hot. However, good hopes, as this map in particular, the Crimson Court, I don't mind it so much if you're planning on doing an all-in. I think it's terrible for macro games. If you're planning on doing like a 2.5 or 3 base all-in, it can be quite powerful. So I'm okay with it. I'm gonna throw down a battery here. I have a Stargate coming up as well. My opponent most likely is playing a 2-gas opener. I want to just get a pylon up in my main base as well. Just trying to figure out what he's up to exactly. I'm gonna get a fast 3rd gas as well over here. Just scouting around, making sure that there's no weird Reaper move-outs coming in. So I chrono my first Phoenix, and I'll see a Hellion and a Reaper. Gonna have an Adept here on the high ground, 2 Adepts on the low ground, as well as my battery finishing. So I'm pretty happy with how this is going. Because I have the battery covering my mineral line as well, I actually feel really comfortable kind of leaving these probes by themselves, because I'm not going to lose too many workers if the Hellions go in there. And we see that, well, happen here exactly. I lose 0 workers, but then I forgot about the second Reaper spot on this map, which is absolutely insane. None of them can be properly walled either. Or you can wall one of them, but not both of them. So it feels like a bit of a waste of buildings. It's such a hard map, like in the first 4 or 5 minutes, I think, this one. And then in the late game as well. Really, the mid game is fine for Toss on this map, but anything else, not so much. Just trying to get a scout in, figure out what he's doing. I see a Medevac, I see a Cyclone, and I see a boost across the map. He opened up with 3 Reapers and 2 Hellions. The 2 Reapers does mean that he has less Marines than he usually would have at this time, but it doesn't mean he has no power, no damage output whatsoever, because they often do. I'm starting to mine a little bit of those minerals on the bottom side, because I want to expand in a line to try and take my 3rd base over here. And I'm just keeping an eye on where he's going. He found my pylon. I'm like, oh crap. I don't actually think I can defend that pylon, so I'm gonna be supply blocked or close to supply blocked for a little bit. There's no real other targets in my main base, so I'm not so worried of him going there. I'm keeping my my adepts nearby as well, and honestly, I feel like I should be capable of winning this fight, but fights against Clem never really go the way you want them to. Like, if this was any other player, I'd feel so comfortable in this position. I target 1 or 2 Marines down, then I pick up the Cyclones, or I target a Cyclone down and pick up some Marines. I feel like I would be fine, but here I'm just hardly getting any damage. It's so difficult to describe what it's like to fight against Clem. It's just, I never really managed to to get anything properly done. Is, well, I guess at the end of the day, this isn't too bad. I do end up losing a lot of my gateway units, and now another Viking shows up. Don't quite have enough lifts anymore to deal with all of this. And my phoenixes are starting to get pretty low. I lose a couple of phoenixes, more marines now showing up as well. Is the medevac still alive? My immortal finally pops out, and Clem at the perfect moment decides to just pull back. So I feel kind of like an idiot here. I lost a lot of my high, my high value assets, my phoenixes, which are important. I don't have a third base on the way. I don't have a robo bay on the way because I didn't macro properly behind this either. The game just went a little bit too fast for me, to be quite honest. And this is one of the problems that I really have with Clem, is that when you're playing against him, like this type of stuff against any other Terran player, it wouldn't be so bad because you know they're going to be floating 800-900 minerals behind this. They're forgetting their barracks timing, but that's not going to be the case with Clem. He's so freaking fast. I do manage to catch his Liberator. I remembered from my preparation that he very often, after retreating, would have a Liberator going in so that when you counterattack, the Liberator is there to kill a bunch of workers. So I'm glad that I managed to catch that, but my situation still, well, it's just not great, to be quite honest. I have legit zero information on my opponent as well, which isn't helping me quite either. I'm trying to pump my Phoenix count up at this point, but I'm afraid of figuring out what he's up to. Like, I see an SCV, I'm like, please let that be the SCV that wants to build the command center, and not an SCV moving over to start mining from a third base. Because if that is an SCV mining from a third base, I'm gonna be in some serious trouble. And then I see the third base already done. I'm not at all happy with this situation. I want to get a scout in towards the main base as well, see what the barracks count is. If it's 3, I'm like, okay. If it's 5, I'm probably in some major crap over here. I do manage to catch a lot of these marines, though. That's actually kind of cool. I don't lose any phoenix. I think I end up losing 1 here in the end. Yeah, okay, I lose 1, but I kill like 7-8 marines, which is kind of good. Accidentally send my entire army across the map, which is the opposite of good. Clem doesn't dare chasing though, so I just want to take a fast forward base. I'm like, okay, I need something. I can't do a push anymore. I simply don't have the infrastructure. So I want to get a forward base and then maybe bait him into attacking into me. Just get a lot of gateways. You see, I'm cutting on the probes here as well, and I want him to come to me and me to have a brilliant freaking fight and then accidentally win the game. Like, that is legit just what I'm hoping for at this point. And the forward base is kind of a bait. You know, I'm not building a lot of workers right now. I might build a couple later on, but my main focus is really on getting a very high gateway count. So yeah, I'm not feeling this game that much. This adept is gonna kill a marine, planning on taking out that mine. That's hard. Like, do I really want to take out that mine and show the fact that I have an observer there? Do I rather keep vision and you have a mine there? Probably. Second thing is a bit better. I decide to move back just a tiny tad, as my vision on the top left side of the map is pretty poor as well. I do have some vision over here, and actually looking back, I don't think my position is that bad. The problem is just that I can't stick to my plan, and my plan really was to win the game ASAP, which now isn't really working because he's on 3 base. I think on the minimap we can already see him building a 4th. It's like, this is the exact situation that I wanted to avoid, especially on this map on which Liberators are ridiculously good. Like, my dream was to be in the next lobby screen already at this point. Like, we're 9 minutes into the game. So, although the actual situation isn't bad, I know out of experience that whenever I get here against Clem, I don't win. And I don't think that's like a mental thing. It's like, oh, I'll get to the late game. Like, I feel comfortable in the late game usually. But I just know that control-wise, Clem is ridiculously good. And I struggle very hard against that in these phases of the game. So then I'd rather, you know, get a higher percentage of winning by doing attacks, which now I'm not capable of doing. Gonna add a second robotics facility, as I'm just actually kind of transitioning into a proper late game now. Just, getting some extra gases, keeping an eye on what he's doing with my observer. He has that sensor tower. Warping a couple more stalkers as well as my first disruptors now being popped out. Double forges coming in. I have a prism going towards the bottom side, which of course is going to be real cool. I want to take this forward 5th base, I think. Yeah, I think that's a good play as well. I was happy when I agree with myself of the past. Like, oh, that's a neat play. You did that well, Kevin. Very happy with all of that. Just kind of looking to see where his army is going. I find that there's so many phoenixes and I don't quite have a great stalker count. It's difficult on this map to send in zealot run-bys. You really have to rely on the prism to do things for you. And So far the Prism is trying to get in. There's a factory there as well. Just kind of want to force him back because it doesn't feel like my army is big enough. But then the mine connects with my Prism, and this is not quite what I wanted in life. Warp in a couple more Stalkers. He's starting to move in. Just with the Vikings. Just the Vikings there being forward. I'm forced into cancelling. Throw down some Disruptor Novas. He takes down the rocks. That makes my defensive rotation much harder, because now his aggressive rotation is about as long as my defensive rotation, which is never a situation you really want to find yourself in. Disruptor count is not quite brilliant either, as I'm very patient with my balls, my Purification Novas. Kind of like that. He does move in. Like this is the problem. His aggressive rotation is so short that it just becomes very hard for me to do things properly. I'm trying to micro some of my Colossus back and clear some of these Vikings, but he's just microing these Vikings like his life depends on it. While also microing his bio like his life depends on it, because, well, his life probably does depend on it. I have no vision of his army, so I have to guess where he's gonna come. I guess correctly. Snipe 1-2 Vikings, he snipes a Colossus. Vikings slowly losing their value for him, mainly because I don't have Colossus anymore. Very patient with my Purification Novas, although that second one was perhaps a bit too quick. This third one perhaps a bit too quick, but he has an active stim, so he probably wants to fight. Especially given that his medevac count isn't that high. So every stim actually does hurt him a little bit, and not fighting while your opponent is stimming tends to be a very high tier play. So if you can, you know, delay the engagement a little bit, that tends to be kind of good for the Protoss player. I do manage to push this back, but I have no real vision here on this part, so it's so scary for me. I kind of need to push forward so that he can do these aggressive rotations and make my life hell. As yeah, he's gonna start moving in right now. We have a decent Disruptor count, and I haven't seen any Liberators yet, so I'm actually feeling kind of okay at this point. I'm like, oh, this is going much better than I thought it would, but fact of the matter is I only have 4 Disruptors, which is not a whole lot. You're always one Disruptor snipe away from just basically losing the fight straight up. I decided to blink in forward because I think I can do something here. Phoenix is now coming in as well. Try to go for a couple of lifts. Feels like his fight is going well, but I actually end up losing like 20, 30, 40 supply of Zealots. And that's pretty much the meat in front of my army. He jumps on top of a Disruptor that had a Purification Nova available. He rotates towards the bottom side instantly, snipes my Super Battery, starts kiting away against. My Zealots just continue chasing. Very often feels like Zealots in actual fights don't really do anything. They tend to just die. As a result, most of my armies tend to be a bit more Stalker, Immortal Colossus, Disruptor focused these days. But every now and again, you know, you get that warp in of Zealots in, hoping that your opponent forgets that they can micro. That's not the case here. I mean, Vikings just owning the skies at this point. I'm just being pushed back, and there's really not that much that I can do over here. Like I try to blink forward to get my Disruptors into a good spot. That Purification Nova doesn't quite hit. I lose another Disruptor for no real reason, sadly, as I'm warping in more Zealots as well. I felt like sometimes when they move forward and you shoot out a Purification Nova, you feel like you could get him, but you never get him. I just never get him. That's the problem. He just dodges every single Purification Nova. It feels pointless to shoot them against him. But you also know it's your only chance. You're just gonna keep going, you know? It's insanity. It actually is. But every now and again you hit a fat one, and then you're very happy about it. As my supply is climbing back up, but he is just constant pressure, and he now discovers my left side base, and this scares me the most, because now he can just start dropping there. And the moment I need to start splitting, life becomes very hard, because I'm extremely reliant here on using my Disruptors. And Disruptors are not great in split armies, because Protoss is just not great in split armies. They require the entire army to be together, then we're strongest. Absolutely. As yeah, I'm starting to spread out Zealots. I'm actually playing quite well. I'm pretty happy watching this back. It's yeah, not at all that disappointed. Like, I'm pretty fast. I feel like I hold my own in these fights, which does feel like I'm on the back foot for a very long time. But yeah, now he starts to split up stuff, and because I don't have any map vision, it's difficult for me to even respond properly. These Stalkers can't quite reach that Liberator either. That makes life even harder, as both of these Disruptors sadly are gonna get taken out. And at this point he's just owning me from all sides at the same time. I tap out, I see that he's still maxed with a bit of a bang. He has a bunch of bases, and I'm getting ready to get into my next game, because this was terrible. And that next game is going to be on Golden Aura. Probably the best Protoss map, I would say, in the map pool after Dynasty. But Dynasty keeps getting vetoed, so it's not a map that I ever get to play against the Terrans. So this is the best map that has a realistic chance of appearing in a best of 5 or a best of 3. As you have relatively easy defense, the rush distance is a little bit longer. 4 bases, like I said, you can do a good job there. Now, sadly, that doesn't quite, work too well with my plans of finishing games early. So, yeah, the blade cuts on 2 sides like that. It's good for him defensively. It's also good for me defensively. And usually Protoss is happy getting an easy 3 or 4 bases. But very often, what actually is the case is that the better player is happy getting the 3 or 4 bases because you have a more stable game. Which is why when people talk about maps and they talk about the races, that's real cool and all, but very often maps can also just be good for being aggressive. Shorter rush distance, that works both ways. Longer rush distance also works both ways. So something to always keep in mind. Just because a map generally is Protoss or Terran favorite doesn't mean that in a certain player matchup that needs to be the case. As I decided to go for a late scout, 19 Nexus, fast cybernetics core. Just a little bit of greed here on the, I think we played on the Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon against Clam. I think it's good to throw in some greed. You could say, well, why don't you ever do anything aggressive in the early game? The problem with that is that most of the aggressive options in the early game, actually just all of them, have been largely figured out. Like proxy void rays, proxy gate stuff. Like I experimented with all of it. I experimented with proxy robos as well before this best of 5, and I just wasn't getting any success in practice. And it's really difficult to kind of justify doing a cheese if you're not getting any type of result with it in practice, especially once again if the people you're practicing with tend to be less secure than Clem is. Clem has the ability with very little units to make a lot happen, which is exactly what you want in these type of chaotic situations. So it's hard. It's very difficult to then be like, okay, I'm just going to play something aggressive. It's like, well, I would love to, but I need to have something that works for in practice at least, or that has a chance of working. As he's scouting with his Reaper. I saw the lack of a command center, I'm pretty sure, so I'm expecting a double gas opener once more. It's kind of frustrating because I would like to play some blink openers as well, rather than everything Phoenix, but it's really hard to play blink, or at least I find it very hard to play blink against 2 gas openers, or at least at this point in my life, but we'll get to that later in this video in about 2.5 hours from now. I found it difficult to deal with 2 gas openers. 2 gas openers hit very hard with quite a lot of units, heavy tech as well, and having Phoenixes tends to be kind of a godsend. So yeah, that's what I'm going for here. Proby moving up as well. Gonna get another pylon out. And I have legitimately no clue whatsoever what my opponent is up to, and it's exactly the way I like it. Both completely in the dark, because if both players are completely in the dark, then there's a decent chance that a coin flip will end up going my way. I scout here at about, a little bit late actually, 3:30ish. This is for the timing in which they show up with 3 Reapers and 2 Hellions. This is a very common timing, so you always want to send out some shades to see if it's coming or not. And if it's not coming, then that's all good. And if it is coming, you can maybe pull your 3rd Adept down. You can get your Phoenix in position and, just get mentally ready. Just getting a bit of a notification ahead of time of something coming makes such a big difference. Now, this is a 30-second later push, as I do manage to actually get the lift there on that mine, but he also manages to get the lift on the mine. So I lose an Adept, he loses a mine in the end. And I'm trying to get some more units out. I did use a lift on my Phoenix, and now I have to use the super battery as well. So I'm desperately trying to hold this. This is so sick. Like, he's just literally picking up every single Marine that I shoot at. I don't even deal the damage. Like, against any other player, there would be 3 Marines gone here already, And this fight would be extremely one-sided. But because he picked up 2 Marines early on, like, this fight is so much harder for me. I have to use these pickups, and I'm literally just losing the game. Like, it's a small difference, but it's a huge difference. These 1 or 2 Marines, like, it's insane. And he's just pushing in right now, and I'm freaking dead. Like, I have nothing here. I have absolutely nothing left. My Phoenixes are dying, my probes are going down, my pilot is being taken out, and it feels so silly because I don't know. It just feels silly. I hate it. I guess I should try and attack the Marines that aren't as obvious, you know, like rather than the one that's always in front, pick the one that's in the back, but that exposes my units a bit more as well. It's just so hard. Like, there's just no good answers. This micro is just really, really sick. And it's freaking frustrating to play against. Like, the kid is crazy. As I'm sitting here just pumping Phoenixes still, I'm like, okay, I kept at least some of my Phoenixes alive. Sadly, I lost my Immortal. That really does freaking suck. Because that's kind of a big deal for me. And I'm so happy to see this push out. The reason why I'm so happy seeing him continue to push, it makes me believe that I can potentially still push this back, and it also means that his barracks are delayed. So if he's not pushing anymore, he has a tech lab on the barracks, and then he's probably already teching in stim and combat. That would be the worst case scenario for me. But here, you know, I have a chance. Like, if he attacks my third base, maybe I can clear this army. That would be fantastic for me. Like, I have quite a few Phoenixes. I have an Immortal on the way. I'm kind of okay with this push. Yeah, keep coming, buddy. I don't give a crap. Up, Immortal pops out as well. I'm sending it around. And the longer he stays around, the bigger the chance that something good might happen to me. So I start chasing, and I actually get a couple of shots here off on a Marine. I am deadly afraid at this point of a freaking Liberator showing up on my side of the map, by the way, and going for some harass. I still have that in the back of my mind. I do get to kill the Viking as well. Don't have any lifts anymore on my Phoenixes, and I continue chasing. I'm really happy with how this went. Like, really happy. That actually was a pretty sizable error by him. I see him over here. I'm like, can I fight this? Can I fight this? And then I decide I probably shouldn't have stayed here. I lose a Stalker and a Phoenix, as he got over-eager, and then I got over-eager. But I do think I still got the better end of the trade there in the end. My Phoenix is under some attack. I see a third base. It's not done yet. He does have a tech lab on a barrack, so he's probably getting stim and combat. I'm like, okay, what I want to do here is very simple. I'm going to get a couple of Colossus out, 2, maybe 3, then push across the map with 8 gateways, because his medevacs are going to be quite late. My Phoenix count is quite good. That means defending with Vikings will be very hard. It also means that he won't be capable of being on the map with a lot of units, and my Phoenix count is still quite good. So overall, I have a lot of units right now that are going to lose some value in about 3 minutes. But if I just fight before those 3 minutes are over, there's actually a lot of value in my stuff. And I do add in a forge, because very often what ends up happening is that you kill a third or you kill a lot of workers, then you don't have any upgrades. And life can be quite tricky. So I'm like, okay, I want to actually be capable of getting some upgrades behind this still. So this is an all-in, but it's an all-in with potential for a transition. Most likely no, but there's potential. As he snipes my one Colossus, as life starts going downhill at a rapid pace. He almost gets my second Colossus, but not quite. I get both of his mines, which is actually really nice. Start to chase him. Lose a Phoenix. I'm kind of like semi-chasing. Not sure if I can. He gets another stim out. I'm like, okay, what do I want to do here? Can I fight this? I have an Immortal. I have a bunch of Zealots. I have Phoenixes. I have another Colossus on the way as well. And I have pretty good reinforcements. So okay, I think what I want to do here is just kind of dance in the middle, because the moment I let him kind of rest and go back home, he can start sending out drops on the map, and that's the last thing I want, because I'm attacking him. I want his entire army to be in one big ball. I don't want his army to be split up so that he can go for a base trade. That's the last thing I want. So I'm just desperately trying to get him to fight me, basically. That's my dream right now. So I target down a bunch of these Marines with my Colossus. Oh, he's retargeting with his mine. Not quite sure what he ended up hitting there. And I'm just kind of chasing his army, waiting for my prism to show up. And then I move into his, just into this area. I send forward my Stalker. I see there's 2 more freaking guys of this one. And I don't have an observer with my army, which is actually really frustrating. Because I wish I had. I wish I had an observer with my army. Just send both of these Zealots in forward so I can deal with these things. He has the two Vikings. I'm not so worried about that, as I'm trying to target down Marines at the moment I can. He's probably going to try and pull some SCVs, I'm aware of that, so I'm just kind of setting up and I'm wanting to move back. But I engage a little bit too deep into his position. I target down a bunch of Marines. Basically all Marines are gone, but I need to pull back, and not a great situation necessarily for me. Do feel like that I have a decently sized army, but no sentry anymore, and he has some Vikings out now. There's 2 more Vikings out. My Phoenix count is gone. That means that my Colossus are now on a bit of a timer as well. He can still try and pull some of these workers as well at any point. I think a mine hit me there, and now the ghosts are out, and that immediately turns the tide of battle, as 1 EMP and your army is practically worthless. trying to target these Vikings down, but it doesn't even matter because the Colossus won't help me too much against this. I lose my prison with the Colossus in it, and I lose game number 2. And he is up with a 2-0 score, just kind of outclassing me. And the third game in this series is played on Ghost River, which is one of the worst maps in the map pool for Protoss versus Terran. I started to think what I actually vetoed, and I can't quite recall what I vetoed. Maybe I vetoed Post-Youth, which is also not a great map for Pro. In general, the maps are pretty decent for Terran, not gonna lie. But yeah, I had a plan here. And my plan was to go for a robotics facility and go for a 2-base Colossus all-in. Or, well, a 3-base Colossus all-in. Basically the same thing as last game, but much quicker and without the Phoenix. And this is a tricky build to execute. It's a build we don't see very often because there is no catch. And what I mean with that is that you don't have Blink or Phoenixes, which means that units in that space are difficult to deal with. Units that rotate between a third and a main base are difficult to deal with. You need lots of units in position. So it is absolutely key that your opponent doesn't figure out what you're doing. So my plan was, it's like, okay, ideally he opens up, in my mind, with a Reaper Expand. Okay, then I'd be so freaking happy. But I see him not throwing down a next or command center. I'm like, oh, this is a bad start. This is the worst possible build order for me to fight against. I'm not too happy about any of this so far. But I'm thinking to myself, you know what? If I just play it anyway, and I just make sure to hide the fact that I have a robotics facility, he might push me right in my face. And if you're playing Robo and you're being pushed right in your face, it's actually quite nice. Because you have a lot of units, you're quite powerful. This is where the strength of your build is. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go through with it anyway. It doesn't even matter. You know, we'll try our best with it. Because, let's face it, Ghost River, there's not a whole lot of other things you can do. Because this map freaking sucks for TOS. So here comes the Reaper, and boom! Big W for me instantly. I take his Reaper out with my Adept. Oof, nice try, buddy. Hits himself with a grenade. I get a cheeky grin on my face. I'd love to see that. Nothing better than a cheeky grin on the Monday morning, despite it being a Sunday. Well, today is Monday for you guys. Hopefully, I get this video done in time. As the two Adepts march across the map, second gateway, throw it down, baby. Let's go. Okay, see no CC. See a CC on the high ground. See no tech lab. That's annoying. Ideally, I would love to see a tank. Tanks are straight up pushing. Another thing that I would be okay with would be like a Cyclone. Worst case scenario, mine. Or Hellions. Hellions would also be really bad. There's multiple worst case scenarios when you play this build, actually. This entire build is a worst case scenario. It's unbelievable. Yes, I'm just adding in a little battery here. Just adding in a little battery. Getting a pylon in my main as well. So I'm mining 222 from every single gas. I have fast observers to figure out where he's coming from with his drops. In case he's playing a mine drop. So I can see him if he flies over here. But so far he's not quite flying over here yet. I have a sentry as well. I'm warping in 2 stalkers. Moving the Adept forward. Now he starts fighting my my pylon gateway cybercore wall. So I think I actually managed to keep my Adept alive here, which would make me insanely happy. Yeah, I do manage to keep it alive. I see a mine over there as well. I end up losing my pylon that is powering that thing, which sucks. And at the same time, he loads up and goes right into my main base, which also sucks. And this is exactly the thing you don't want to be fighting against. I try to take out his mine, and as a result, I lose my Stalker to the Cyclone. And life is is going exactly how we don't want it. My robotics facility, my Robo Bay doesn't even start that quick here. Like, it's actually a really late Robo Bay, which hurts me even more. It's like, oh my god, life already sucks. Is this really, you know, is this really where we want to go from here? And the answer is yeah, this is really where we want to go from here. I'm gonna send some of these bad boys across the map. See if I can fight him in the middle. I'm like, I have a lot of units. I'm quite powerful. He dodges a shot there. I try to target down, he picks up both of them. I just get destroyed in the fight. Yeah. It's so hard to practice for this without practicing with him. And you can't really ask Clem for practice games the day before you have to fight him. Like there's no other Terrans in Europe that do this. And I think even in Korea, it's not that common to have like this level of pickup micro. It's like every single small fight that there is, they pick it up, and he's not floating behind it. He's not floating any money behind this. His mechanics are really, really crazy. He's so fast, he's so accurate. And it's very frustrating. So my situation now is complete balls. I have an Immortal out, which is great. I have a bunch of Stalkers, which is fine. I start my first Colossus, which, I mean, kudos to me for getting that out, I guess. I legit have zero info on what he's doing. He could be building 2 Ravens with Interference Matrix for all I know. So I'm just starting to add in my gateways. Slowly setting up for my inevitable all-in, which I'm planning on. I think I saw like a Liberator or something there on the map, so I'm moving some units in position. Making sure that I can get it. That's a cool maneuver. Oh, actually going for Fortune Twilight. So this wasn't my plan at all. My plan really was to go for an 8 gate. Can't even remember throwing down the Forge in the Twilight. That's a wild move. Yeah, I don't mind it. I guess there's no real point in trying to attack if you're gonna hit this late. So I move my Stalkers in position, and he's targeting down probes there as well. So rather than shooting, auto-shooting on my dudes, on my, what you call them? On my Stalkers, he decides to get 2 probe kills or 3 probe kills instead. Still a good move. Tank's now sieging up, and it's freaking difficult, man. This game is so hard. What the hell? It's not fair. I also want to be fast. As yeah, it's a really kind of a sad ending as I just kind of bleed out over here. Like he has me in a chokehold, and I'm just sitting there pretending like I still can fight. You know, like it's like a fish on the dry, like just gasping for air and realizing can't get any of this air. Too much freaking oxygen in air, boys. What's up with that? Yes, yeah, my target fire on the Marines is okay, but I just don't have anything really to deal with these tanks. I tried to snipe one, but by the time I'm done sniping it, I basically lost my entire gateway army. And I mean, I'm controlling this as well as I can, but sometimes as well as you can just isn't quite good enough if you're down freaking 40 supply. And I know behind this he has a third. He's, you know, he's getting more stuff. He has 5 barracks, he's pumping Vikings, he's getting good upgrades. Ghost Academy as well. Because he just doesn't miss a beat, the kids on the street. He's only one of the kids on the street. So he moves in forward, and I'm honestly just freaking dead. It's a couple of Marauders, still a tank, and it's almost disrespectful for me to stay in. There's no way I'm winning this. So I decide rather to tap out right now. Now it's over, Kevin. GG. As I lose my upper bracket series versus Clam 3-0, but luckily there's still a lower bracket where I can try and take my revenge. And in that first series of the lower bracket, I have to play against Skillus as my opponent in this best of 5, starting on Alcyone. Now, Skillus, for the people that don't know, is a Protoss player, and I think generally rated as the 3rd best Protoss in Europe, I would say. I personally rate MaxPax as the highest Protoss in Europe. I don't think people can really, you know, we can't really, what you call it, discuss that very much, or we could discuss it if you want, but if you don't pick MaxPax as the best Toss in Europe, I think you're just wrong. I think Showtime is the 2nd best. I think Skillus is the 3rd best. And then below that, there's a bunch of people that I think could be, you know, in the top 4. Christianer sometimes performs well. Mana, Kung Fu Banda, myself. I feel like I'm missing a couple of people, but I'm sorry for that. Happens to the best. But yeah, I'm... but it's PvP. And in PvP, I feel quite good. At the moment, and also back here, this is... talking now, it's like a couple of days ago, 4 or 5 days ago, but I feel good in PvP. I feel like I understand the matchup in the first 7 to 8 minutes extremely well. I think I know... It's very relaxing to be capable of basically playing every scenario from every side and being aware of what the correct call is. Like, it feels like my game knowledge on how to react to things is extremely good, and I'm really happy with that. Like, I just feel super comfortable. I think my execution sometimes is lacking, but in a matchup where mind games and build orders are so important, it doesn't matter quite as much. So, although I don't want to go necessarily into a late game versus Skillus, the mid game and the first 6-7 minutes is hopefully where I'm going to be reigning supreme. as I throw down a little pylon over here in my main base, get a hallucination across the map, and get a robotics facility. My preferred tech of choice is the Robo. I believe the Robo has a lot of advantages. I think it's extremely powerful against blink openers. I think there are certain things you can do against Stargate openers, and I feel very comfortable in Robo versus Robo. So there's not a single scenario where I'm like, oh, this is bad for the Robo. I think Stargate is probably the worst case scenario, but even the worst case scenario isn't really all that bad. As I see a Twilight here, I'm like, okay, that's good. This is exactly what I want. This is, yeah, legit exactly what I want. As I built another Sentry, another Stalker, and usually what I do here is I take a relatively fast third base. Just basically the moment I can, I take a third base. Throw down that Nexus, get an Observer out. Really tried to get that Stalker as well, which didn't quite end up working. That's the way of the world, I guess. And then I'm scouting to make sure that there are no Adept move-outs going on behind me. So I'm using that hallucination. Alcyone only has 2 paths, so it's really easy to check for any Adept move-outs. And I want to figure out what his worker count is, what his follow-up is going to be. I start with an Observer, followed up with an Immortal. He's getting a battery because he's deadly afraid of the fake move-out that I did earlier. And he's realizing right now, hey, this guy's an idiot. He's actually taking a fast third, and he's not really moving out. That freaking sucks for me. I'm going to need a fast third myself as well. So that's what he does. He's going to try and get a third. But his fast third is already later than my fast third. Because my fast third is really a fast third. And his is kind of a normal timed one. Which sucks for him. Good for me. I see his Stalker is still there in the middle. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what is going on. I have Adepts going around the map. So I don't have to worry about his Adepts. I have my own after all. Why worry about something that you can do yourself? He's playing no gas. I'm playing no gas on my natural leader. So I'm getting a pylon out here. Just scouting in the main base to see what's going on. I see a robotics facility. And basically, it's a mirror in that we have the same structures, similar army composition. Mine probably more Immortal focused, his more Stalker focused. But I just have more workers. I can Chrono Boost my workers. Throwing down a Forge here. I'm going to get my charge upgrade as well. And I'm feeling fairly good about life right now. I'm like, hey, this is probably exactly what I want. This is just exactly what I want. So I'm just scouting, trying to figure out what he's doing. I think I see a Forge somewhere as well. And I'm just happy. Happy altogether. Get another pylon. And I think this is a very, I don't want to say this is a big win, but it's like, I'm ahead. You know, I'm quite far ahead at this point, I think. Just everything. So I fake a hallucinated prism, then I fly through Watchtower vision, pretending like I'm an idiot. And this is the beauty of very often being an idiot, is that people will believe you when you're pretending to be an idiot. So he goes and chases my prism. Yeah. But then he kills it anyway. So he sees that it's fake. My goal was to pretend to have a counterattack ready for when he moves out. But yeah, it didn't quite work out. So I send my Adepts across the map. I go poop, poop, poop. There's a 1 gas here in this base. And I'm getting more Zealots. My plan this game was, by the way, to go for like an 8k Zealot Immortal attack, which I thought was really cool. I think this is a tight attack. I really like it. I've been playing it quite a bit, and with a decent amount of success. I think it beats a lot of the standard builds. You really need to respect it, because I hit so freaking fast. I have a high gateway count, and yeah, if you get caught out somewhere, then there's a decent chance that you just straight up end up dying. So I start by attacking these rocks now as well. Get my own Forge out. Upgrading like a madman. Continuing worker production. I see the lack of a fort base here. I'm like, okay, that's weird. Maybe he has a fort going up on the top side. Because ideally I'm fighting against someone that is already building a fort base. So I can clear that fort base and he tries to defend it and then realizes, wait, I can't defend it. Then they lose the game. Skill is here with absolutely the correct call, as he decides to defend on 3 bases. And I'm still trying to do something here. You know, I'm trying to get some damage in, as I managed to actually force with a lot of these freaking sentries, which is cool. Putting some of my Zealots back as well. So he's building a couple of Adepts. As I'm adding some more gateways here as well at this moment. Taking some gases. My plan now is to go back. He blinks forward, snipes my prism, but I kill a couple of his Stalkers, and then he ends up killing a couple of my, what you call them? A couple of my Zealots as well. So not the greatest trade for me, but still probably fine. My fort base is now done. I'm getting the extra gases. And My first upgrade also has completed. He's gonna scout, try and figure out exactly what I'm doing. I'm not entirely sure what he is doing. Building a battery over here. I don't have a battery on my fort, actually, which is a pretty weird mistake to make. I'm not a fan of that. I do saturate this base now as well. A battery is so much better than just a single cannon as well. Like a battery with a super battery is the most valuable structure you can have defensively as a Protoss player. So I see him moving out, and whenever you see someone move out, it's always important to know what their army is capable of. Like what type of army do they have, so you can make a decision on how you want to defend. There's a couple of ways you can try and defend. You can try and defend outside of your static defense. You can try and counterattack and defend in that way. And I don't think I quite seen the amount of adepts that he has here. So now I see him like, wait a second, he has a lot of adepts. And against pure adept armies, zealots are not so great. So what you want to do is you want to kind of add sentries, stalkers, and keep the zealots back, or counterattack with the zealots if you think you can get away with it. So here what I'm doing instead, I'm just kind of attacking into him and get a couple of force fields in, but I'm just losing so many zealots in these little engagements. I'm trying to send some across the map for a counterattack, but that also isn't quite working. My super battery, or my battery now finishes, but it's in range of so many units that it basically instantly dies. And despite having a really good start and having very high supply, his army composition is simply better than mine. And the mode in which I decided to defend with just didn't work whatsoever. It was the incorrect way of defending. I probably should have counterattacked with all my zealots, given up my fort base, and then either force a recall out of him with my massive counterattack, or he kind of does like a desperation attack into my bases, and then I have 2-3 batteries at my third. I can recall some of my zealots. I have force fields to keep his stuff out. But now I'm practically just that, and there's nothing I can really do about it. Adept count is fantastic. Adepts don't scale well against lots of Archons and Immortals, but they're fantastic against zealots in low numbers. I feel pretty stupid about losing this game, because it really felt like I should have won this one, given how good my early game was. And I'm just watching this back, I'm like, 73 workers to 62. If I had a battery here, if I just was counterattacking, if I had some more sentries, like really simple things. So I kind of feel stupid for losing this one, but yeah, still counts as a loss. As Skill is now up 1-0. And second game is going to be played here on Ghost River, a very small map, and a map that I actually really like in this matchup as well. I think it's a cool map to play on. Like, I actually don't mind this map at all. I wouldn't call this my favorite map, but it's actually pretty close. In PvP, short maps, yeah, they're my jam for sure. The faster I can be at the opponent's base, the better it's going to be for me. 100% of the time. As trying to micro my little probies, get a little bit more minerals. Start my first gateway. Plan remains very similar for me here. Just wanting to get a robotics facility out. Setting up some of my camera hotkey locations as well. Just chronoing out probes. In general, my plan is just to kind of respond to what other people do in PvP most of the time, and then get a lead, and then try and kill them. I think this is a cool way of playing. Like, this is kind of the old school Protoss way of playing. I feel like nowadays everyone is too focused on macro in general. You know what happened with the golden times, just getting ahead and killing your opponent. If you have a bit of a lead, just go kill them. I think it's generally good to do. Someone like MC never played macro games. He just got ahead in the early game and killed the opponent. Got behind in the early game, then lost the game. That's how it is. I think that's cool. That's not how I play in PvZ, but in PvP and PvT, it is kind of how I play. Which is funny, because PvP is my best matchup and PvT is my worst matchup. So maybe the philosophy should be more matchup specific. I should be playing macro every game in PvT. Oh well, it is what it is. He comes in for a cheeky little scout. I'm also surprised, by the way, that no one is going for proxies, or not as much anymore. I still think they have some value, especially in tournaments where people tend to just respond like absolute idiots to stuff. Aggressive builds are so much better in tournaments than they are on the ladder, because people get more nervous and people are more afraid. There's more on the line, they play worse. So I kind of wanted to play Proxy Robo, but I actually had played a game against Skilles in which I played Proxy Robo, and I think his defense was so perfect. Like his plan on how to deal with it, I thought was so brilliant and so good that I didn't dare doing it. I was like, man, this guy is too much of a genius. I'm not gonna, you know, because I don't deserve to proxy robo this guy. So I saw 2 adepts come out, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, what could that be? He very often, when playing adept builds, went for Stargate. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, if he's going Stargate, what happens if I just walk across the map with a couple of units? Let's say 6. 6? Yeah, why not? 6 of these bad boys. 6 little gateway units. That was gonna be my plan here. Walk across the map, have a proxy pylon as well so I can warp some crap in. And this was something that I hadn't completely prepared. I'm gonna be real with you all. It's something I actually hadn't really prepared at all. It's like, okay, it's gonna probably... So I wasn't entirely ready for everything. But then I see a sentry popping out and I see an immortal. I'm like, ooh, it's a proxy robo. But it's at home. So it's not proxied at all. It's just a robo. And then I killed an adept already. I got a fast scout. I'm pretty happy about myself. I'm thinking, wow, this is how life is supposed to be. I just scout stuff and then I respond to it. So I have a bunch of units coming out. As I don't quite know what his plans are here. But I'm out on the map. I'm ready to fight near this ramp. I think I get a little bit over-eager. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, okay, I have a lot of units. What if I just fight even if it's not on the ramp? And I think that might be a slight mistake. Because immortals are really quite powerful. One would be surprised to hear, or perhaps not surprised to hear. As he throws down a couple of force fields. Now the prism shows up, and the prism is the real issue. Just the immortal would have been fine, but the 3 adept warping is something that I can't quite stand, as I see my life flash in front of my eyes. And I realize that I am probably freaking dead. He kills about 4 of my units, or 3 of my units. I think I killed a sentry. He has an immortal out. I don't quite yet. I'm trying to get batteries going. My spot is freaking terrible right now. The one good thing is that I have a couple of force fields available at least. So I can try and clear some stuff. But at the same time, he also has some force fields available. Doesn't quite hit that, as I can still maneuver away from it. My immortal now pops, which is great. Because an immortal with a super battery is actually super good. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. So much harder to kill than just an immortal without a super battery. And he continues trying to fight. He's really keen on taking out my Nexus. But I have a pretty good position to try and defend my Nexus. So I'm building, I think, another immortal or another prism. Or a prism. And I'm very patient as well with my super battery. Dealing a lot of damage against this immortal. I just shot my super battery there in the end. And I'm pushing him back big time now. I'm like, okay, this feels good. I managed to win. I don't think managed to win this fight. I don't think I quite should have. So here I'm trying my best to kill this immortal, but I don't quite get it. Him still having that shield available definitely helped out. And now I know that I'm just up in workers. I have a good immortal count. And I have a bunch of batteries in my natural, which means that it's going to be easy for me to defend. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, how could I possibly lose? And I identified that the best way for me to lose is to walk across the map with a push while a prism hits my natural. And that's exactly what I decide to do. I'm like, you know what? That does sound like a great plan, Kevin. Why don't you lose 15 workers, the 3 adepts, after your miraculous hold earlier? I'm like, oh, that is indeed freaking brilliant. God, glad I followed this YouTube man with his big brain. Literally identifying the one way that I could lose and then going full force for it. Because I really believe that I can kill him here, but he's quite a few units. I get some good force fields instantly, which helps me out so freaking much, by the way. That is an absolute lifesaver over here. I'm still trying to deal with this thing. I get force fielded in. He has 2 immortals. I'm trying to push him in forward. I'm taking out a lot of workers here with my push, which is helping me, I guess, but it would have been so much better for me to just go for a double immortal drop, scout what he's doing, and then just be up 12 workers and kill him at some point. This kill move, I think, was naive by me. It was disrespecting my opponent's intelligence. And he now goes for a pause. Sorry, lags. I wasn't having none of it, because I was having no lags. I was upset, because I was throwing the game like an idiot. Actually, this type of stuff, I think is really good. For the person who's ahead, because you have some time to overthink what you should be doing. So I was pretty happy with it. I mean, not the moment it happened, because it annoyed me, but then I was, okay, let me think, what should I be doing right now? And I know that I'm up in workers. I know that I just need to chill. I know that all I need to do is just kind of drop with immortals have vision of his prism, make sure that there's no DTs coming in, and then eventually we're gonna fight, and I'm gonna win, because I'm gonna have more gas. I can go into like a Templar Archives, I can go into Archons, I'm gonna be just fine. Like, that's literally just gonna be my plan here. As I'm pulling back with my prism, make sure to not lose it. The biggest mistake here would be losing the prism, which is a mistake that, I'm not gonna lie, I probably have made in the past. Losing the prism like an idiot, it's always great. So I'm just scouting, trying to figure out what he's doing. And a big thing here is if he doesn't have a third base coming in, and he doesn't have gases in the natural, then my Archons are eventually gonna win. So I don't have to do anything. Like, I just need to not die, basically. Because if I get two Archons out, I just win the game. And I'm outmining him in gas. I even think maybe adding this many gateways is a mistake, but I also don't super mind it. So I'm just kind of going across here. I'm trying to force him to go back home, because the longer it takes for us to fight, the better it's going to be for me, right? Because the longer this game lasts, the better it's going to be for me. So I'm just keeping my Prism aggressive, so he keeps units at home as well. So even if we do get to fight, it's going to be with less units for him, and I can always just recall. So that's what I do. I recall, I see him moving in, I pop a couple of these force fields, boom! Get a lot of his army in there. I'm sad I don't have a battery a bit further forward to help my sentries on the left side, but this fight was absolutely fine for me. I'm not really worried about this at all. So I get some more prisms, and I get more prisms, more pylons. Get my first Archon as well, which means that his force fields are going to be worse. My Zealot charge is about to finish up as well. And I'm actually looking at this, I'm thinking, man, this is a pretty scary army. I remember thinking at this moment, oh, this feels potentially quite bad. But then, I don't know, I have so many batteries that just help so much, just healing your units. Having those batteries from earlier really was a lifesaver. I think my defense wasn't even that good. As in, I think I built too many buildings and not enough units. Now he goes for a little bit of a drop in my main base. I decide to warp in a Zealot with charge, and then the two Immortals should be capable of dealing with that Zealot to, you know, tank some of those shots, and then the Immortals there as well. It's going to be great. And now that I have Archons, I'm like, okay, what I want to do is I want to force him to go back home with his Prism. That's really important for me. I want to take a third base, and then I just kind of want to stand outside of his natural, so that if he wants to take a third base, he needs to fight me, which he can't, because I'm going to have a higher Archon count. He can't counterattack, because then I kill him in his natural. And I have a third base, so there's some time pressure on him. You know, there's pressure on him to make moves. If he doesn't make moves, he's just going to lose. So I'm just planning on going in, but not really. You know, like I'm just kind of faking it. I want him to go home with that Prism, and then once he goes home, I'm like, okay, I'll start my +2. I have my my Nexus going up. What are you gonna do now? And the answer really is, I don't think there's anything he can do. The only thing he can do is mirror my composition, but with worse upgrades, with worse eco, less Archons, less gateways. Like, life is just good for me. So I send this hallucination forward. I move my main army back just a little bit, and I'm like, okay, I can harass, because I know he's not gonna have any blink right now. I can harass him. Just go in, see if I can get some kills, get further ahead. It's not really necessary, but it also, you know, there's no downside to it either. So as long as you're careful, I'm like, okay, this is completely fine. Don't mind this at all. Then just keep an eye on his third base. As long as he doesn't have it, then I can just add more and more batteries on my own third. So I have like 2 batteries. Like, how am I ever going to lose a fight? It's impossible. Because I have, like I said, more Archons, better upgrades. And now I'm also going to have like 10 freaking batteries. I see him flying over. Ooh, that's interesting. It's one hell of an army. And I see he's going for glaives again. But this time, yeah, my army is big enough. I mean, I shouldn't be fighting away from the stuff. And I probably shouldn't be fighting like this. So I pull back just a tiny tad. I'm like, do I really need to be here? And I think to myself, yeah, I do need to be here. 2 Archons on the top side, not actually participating in the fight. Doesn't even really matter as I pull back just a tiny tad. They start participating in the fight, and it becomes a very clean and relatively easy win here. As he taps out, and we tie up our series 1-1. And in the third game, we're playing on Crimson County. Crimson Court. I'm not sure I keep saying Crimson County. I'm playing a little bit of Red Dead Redemption, so that, you know, the county lingo is slipping in. Oh, what a game that is, huh? Holy crap. Impressed with it. I restarted playing it a bit, and we played it before, like 4 years ago or so. I was very impressed by how well it holds up. It's pretty fun to play. the missions, the dialogue. It's all just, I don't know, it felt good. Yeah, I've been talking like I'm in an old western every now and again. As we have, it's not related to this at all, but we have just a Crimson Court, which, just like Ghost River, is a map that I actually quite like because it is so. It's easy to get a full overview on this map. It has 2 main roads, which are kind of easily trackable, very easily trackable, and that's good for me. Like, if the main roads are easily trackable, then keeping things simple and just countering what your opponent is doing properly is made much easier as well. So I'm just gonna throw down my cybernetics core down here. Poof, throw it down. That's beautiful. Send this bad boy across the map. And my plan, of course, the same as always. Just going into a fast robotics facility, kind of taking it from there. I don't think I had any cheeses prepared at all in this entire series. I remember thinking I should have something that is more out there, you know, that is more aggressive, that is more unexpected. But then I realized I didn't need to do that because the issue that I have isn't really in the early game. I always feel good in the early game. If I lose, it's most of the time in the mid or the late game. So I was like, why would I change, you know, the formula that works for me? If the formula works, you know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not what they do with Coca-Cola either. They have a good product. Well, I don't like the product, but a lot of people think it's a good product. You know, the most disgusting thing is the Coca-Cola lollipops. I always hated those. Sometimes when I was a kid, you'd go to like a birthday party. They had like lollipops, and the only lollipops they had were the freaking Coca-Cola ones. Like, who even likes that? It's not that good. Freaking Coca-Cola is not that tasty at all. It also makes me burp always. I freaking hate that drink. Terrible stuff. So I see 2 adepts. Cancel my pylon. As I chrono out my cheeky little warp guide. And my plan is to once again go for a lot of gateway units here. Double adept. I think this is actually a fairly safe play to make. It's just getting a lot of gateway units. Because with the 2 adepts, they don't really have a lot of fighting power, right? So if they play 2 adepts, you can always fight against these adepts. That's basically my plan. Oh, my camera here died as well. Look at that. That's very sad for my camera. I think it was too hot in my room, and then the camera died because of overheating. Hate to see it. Whenever I play tournaments, I always crank up the heat until I sweat so much that I can't get cold hands anymore. And then once I don't have cold hands anymore, they don't come back during the series. But at the start, my hands are always cold. During tournaments, you know what I do? I put, you know, these hand warmers that you have. If you shake them or you rub them, they start heating up. I put like 3 or 4 of these in my pocket, and I put a couple in my shirt as well, so that my entire body just heats up, and then my hands get warm as well. I figured this out, I think 2 years ago, like 2022. Oh, this was terrible. And then ever since then, I never had cold hands anymore. This was legit the worst thing that could happen. My battery wasn't in time. My adept gets caught in the middle of the map. Like, this was actually a nightmare. This is legit the worst thing that could happen. And I have a robotics facility against someone that's playing Stargate. But I don't have the money to do anything with it. So I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, okay, what's next? And I legit have no clue what's next. Because my position is so garbage right now. After bragging so much about my brilliant early game, this is what happens. He has 2 oracles as well. I think at least one of them has energy. So I'm just freaking dead at this point. Like, it's actually over. But I still try and go across the map. Try and clear this battery. I'm hitting like 30 seconds later than I should be hitting with this push as well, which is hilarious to me. Try to force field him in, maybe? No? Could have definitely used hallucinations here as well. Yeah, probably should have used that a bit faster. Maybe I actually had a chance if I had done that. I think now I'll go for a force field and another force field. Managed to get 2 adepts with those force fields, which is pretty cool. Getting a lot of workers in general and a lot of his units. He's trying to fight. Do I have another force field available? I think I might. Yeah, there we go. Boom. Another force field available. But that high ground is actually helping him out so much. And double oracles now coming in as well. He has a phoenix that he produced just to help him out. Battery is about to go up. I think his oracles are actually going back home to help with the defense, because he's so far ahead. He killed so many of my workers that he can just lose all of his oracles at this point and still be completely fine. But yeah, then I think now that the battery is about to finish up, or did I kill it? Now the battery is done, so the moment the pylon powers it, this push pretty much ends for me. So I'm desperate to kill him, I really am. His oracles are still going across the map. And he's, yeah, trying to hold this area. He's killing so many freaking workers here. And I'm in a desperate position. Very, very desperate. More zealots coming in, but yeah, all my workers just dying. I'm losing my stalkers. And I'm freaking dead, so... GG. I tap out. 45 supply to 26. He had blink done as well. And I'm down 2-1 on the brink of elimination here in this best of 5. And that brings us to game 4. Down 1-2. My favorite position to be in. Either it means you get to go do something else soon, or you're making things exciting. 2-2 feels very good. 1-2 also feels good. I don't actually mind being down in a best of 5. It doesn't feel so bad. As I scout his sentry, so I know that it's going to be at least easier than last game. So I don't have to deal with any adepts or Stargate units. That's great. Glad to see it. He's blocking my natural. I don't really care about that. I mean, he's not going to let it finish. I can just throw it down 4 seconds later. Like, these are not game-ending things. It's minor. He loses 25 minerals for that block, and he delays my nexus a little bit. I'm like, okay, we can do it. I don't mind. I don't care. Sentry popping out. As just kind of moving on the map. As I saw his sentry, I'm allowed to do that because he can't push aggressively. Like, he can't be out here with freaking 2 adepts or 2 stalkers right now. So I can be a bit further out on the map to throw down my first hallucination. I'm trying to catch his hallucination, but he's microing it. And I want to see first if he has a nexus. If he has a nexus, then we can kind of take it from there. See what's kicking off. See a nexus. I see 3 sentries. No units being built anymore in the warp gate, so it's going to be a 4-unit start. And I see his robotics timing exactly the same as me. Instantly throw down my Twilight as well. It's important for me, as I have a couple of builds in Robo versus Robo, and one of them is going for very fast, kind of a Charge Lord Archon push, and getting some adepts out on the map. So basically, the moment your opponent tries to move across the map, you can use your adepts as a counter attack. And if your opponent doesn't move across the map, you can use your adepts later on. It doesn't matter so much. It's hard for them to catch them. They don't have Blink. They don't have Stargate. And I'm just getting an observer here. So this is a build that I personally think is really cool. And it very often works for me the first time that I play it. I think I just saw a Forge being built, as well as a Warp Prism that is being constructed for my opponent. So I warp in some Zealots here. My observer wants to get some info on what my opponent is up to, ideally. That would be nice. And I just start my charge instantly as well. Which is also important. Because without charge, Zealots are practically useless. Get another Stalker out, just keep them in my main base so I can deal with his Prism. I have these Adepts still kind of stuck around. And I'm not getting a fast Forge, because my goal is to really rush out my Archons as fast as possible. And then either kill him if he gets a 3rd base, or take a 3rd base behind it. I'm going to be down an upgrade, but I'm okay with it, because I'm going to be up in gas, most likely, and thus up in Archons, which, yeah, that's really the entire goal of this build. And I really, like I said, I really like Robo versus Robo. I think it's my favorite build order matchup. I also think it's my highest win rate in the build order matchup, because I have so many different builds, and this is just one of them, that I can execute and I feel comfortable with, and I feel good in. So he realizes what's happening, and I realize that he realized what's happening, so I just throw down a Nexus. Because I see him building a wall, because he saw me going for quick Templar Archives. I'm like, okay, if you're building a wall, then I'm just going to take a 3rd base, and I'm going to get you outside of that wall. Because you can't just sit there and do nothing, basically. It's just simply not viable. So I'm like, okay, I'm still just going to be pushing out. And here I was second guessing. It's like, do I want more gates, or do I want straight away a Forge out? And I wasn't entirely sure. I see 2 Immortals, which is good news for me. Immortals are really bad in this type of situation. They become good over time, but they're bad because they delay your extra gateways, and they take up gas. They're better than Stalkers. I'd rather have Immortals than Stalkers. But to be honest, I'd rather have neither, and just Zealots and Archons. They're the king in the Robo versus Robo matchup. So I see he has Adepts out, and he's trying to take a 3rd, or I see with my Adepts that he has a 3rd coming up. And then I try to fly in with my Archon into his main base. If I can get a Warp in into his main, he's going to be in some serious trouble. My 3rd base is much quicker than his as well, which is also important. And he's trying to catch my Adepts, which would be frustrating. Managed to catch 1. So yeah, that's pretty annoying. I don't think he's quite ready for my fly-in. I'm like, hey, wait. If I can just get in here with an Archon and a bunch of Zealots, then that means he needs to temporarily at least give up his third base, because he can't hold both things at the same time. He's forced into using a super battery here, does have his army in position to deal with all of this. So I now start moving into his third as well. I'm fighting away from the super battery, just kind of pulling away. He's warping in Adepts. So once again, I'm like, okay, he's building Adepts. That's completely fine for me. I just recall a bunch of my Zealots, pick up the rest. So basically my main focus is now on that third base. I'm like, okay, I did enough. I see him trying to recall back over here. So I go back in with my Prism, then I see his recall was almost no units at all. So I can continue pushing. And I'm just kind of multitasking between these two areas. And it's working out very well for me, because it's so hard to split. I can warp in at any given moment with my Prism, and there's really not that much that he can do about it. So I'm just warping in more and more Archons. I'm in the process of taking out his third base, getting a battery already, just in case he, you know, tries to counterattack me at some point. Don't forget, he does have the +1 up on me. He has a better upgrade. I'm getting my own +1, but he most likely is going to hit me with +2 while I only have +1. So that is a little bit scary. Getting a cannon in my main base as well. I see he doesn't have that many workers, or at least they weren't working. He's not getting that much gas either. That's his +2 being researched. And he has glaives, most likely on the way, or it's already done. So I know exactly what the situation is right now. I'm gonna take some extra gases. Why am I taking these extra gases? You might be wondering. Very simple. It's because I want a higher Archon count and I want more sentries as well. These are gonna be the units that will help me defend against my opponent's push. So I kind of keep my Prism in the dead space. I'm not completely cutting workers, but well, actually, I think at this point I pretty much completely cut workers, which is good. I want to trade outside, like kind of away, while the adept count isn't so high yet. That way my zealots are much better than they are when the adept count is higher. So zealots, they skill badly against adept, and adept skill badly against archons. So if I can get rid of some adepts early on, I lose my prism, which is actually really bad. Losing that Archon, but mainly losing the threat of being able to warp into his main base really freaking sucks. So I go around with my Zealots. I'm thinking to myself, okay, what I want to do here is have a good counterattack, make sure he can't get a third. And then just get a couple of cannons, batteries. And then I realize I don't have any real defense in my natural. I'm like, oh, that wasn't brilliant. I do think I have 1 or 2 sentries, so I can force field at least a little bit. I wasn't sure if this Archon was real, by the way. I remember thinking, surely this Archon is fake. So I'm just sending some Zealots into this position. Really want to kind of keep my Zealots back. Probably should have done that a little bit better. My Archon's now moving forward and just making a big fat concave. It's not a great situation for me, but I have so much static defense and my Zealots counterattacking that he is forced to go into positions where he probably doesn't really want to fight. So my Archon's now going absolutely ham with a really nice concave. And just taking out some of these Archons, or some of these Immortals. Super Battery activating in the natural right now. So getting quite a bit of healing there on my Archons as well. Seems like my Zealots have died on the other side of the map. He's trying to push me, you know, kind of back, but it's not entirely working. I still have a lot of Archons left over. I can just kind of push back. Go forward. Pull back, push forward, pull back, push forward. And over time, these batteries are putting in so much work. I got a nice force field in here as well. Archon count is growing an insane amount. If I just had this Prism still alive, life would be so much easier because you could just reinforce Zealots right into his main base. And now I think he finishes this Shade actually, which is a pretty big blunder. So I think the game was definitely in my favor, but now he's going to lose a lot of his big units. And I just have a recall that I can use to go into my main base. So I don't actually very much care about this. So just go for a full recall into the main. Except for 1 sentry and an Archon, then I can just force field him in. And either he's going to lose all of his adepts, or he's going to lose, well, most of his big units. And in this case, I think he ends up losing pretty much both. As I just completely push him back and, well, win the game. I mean, I'm on 3 bases. I guess he has a third as well, but he's not doing very much with his third. These adepts are not going to do much either. And at this point, he should probably leave. And he does. 2-2 is the score. Not the cleanest game, but decision-making wise, I think, was very solid. And the way I did my first attack, very solid as well. So yeah, good stuff. Final game of the best of 5. And that's played on Oceanborn. Over here. Beautiful map. Beautiful setup for the final game of the series. I feel like every best of 5 should go to a game 5. I've been thinking about this. What if we just let every best of 5 play all the way out, you know? So you can get like 5 zeros. Basically, you beat him for the next best of 3 as well. So if you beat someone 5-0 in a tournament, next time you play a best of 3 against him, he just has to forfeit. I think that would be cool. You get like extra, you take away his money or something. Like with every map that you win, it's like 10%. Buff. I think that would be sick. Imagine like a best of 7 going 0-7 against Zero in the finals and just takes your entire pay cut. Zero's now the king. I think that would be pretty fun. Just having like a set amount of money you get per round, and then a percentage based on how many maps you win. So you play a best of 5, and each map is just 20% of the money between you two. So you can rob the guy. So if he wins one map, he takes back 20% of the pot that's in between you two. I think that's pretty cool, actually. It always feels bad with like a 4-3 score, that then one guy just gets so much more than the others, you know, in a grand final. Like one guy gets like 200k, the other one gets like 80. Like, what? It was 4-3. That money split isn't fair. But also sometimes it's like 4-0. It's like, well, does the other guy really deserve anything? Well, yeah, probably, but maybe not. I think that would be pretty funny. You could also have situations in which like the fourth place makes more than the second place, because the second place went 0-7 in the finals. Dude, that's a sick tournament format. It would be really bad for my career, because I haven't won so many tournaments. Sometimes I do take maps, I guess. So maybe it'd be better taking maps. More value in taking maps, less in winning series. Alright, neither of us is doing anything fancy, although that's not true. I fake proxy the pylon, which actually is quite fancy. I am baiting him into doing some shenanigans. I'm not sure if he's being baited. Actually finished his pylon, which I think is a mistake. I show my sentry at this point. He's not showing any units to my pylon that I tried to build there to, you know, see if he was doing anything cool. Gonna boost my warp gate as well. Not sure what he's doing. The thing is that when I show my sentry, he has already made a decision on his response. So it doesn't change anything. Like he can, if he threw down a Stargate, he can't really cancel that and be like, okay, I'm not going for a Stargate anymore. If he went for a Robo, he can't really cancel that and go not for a Robo anymore. He went for 2 Stalkers early on, which is probably my favorite thing that I can play against, to be quite honest. I think that's super comfortable. If you're opening with mass sentries. And I see a Nexus. Nexus timing is about the same as mine, but I definitely have more workers. I also have a Robo, and I see a Stargate, but that Stargate is really late. It finishes 3 minutes and 30 seconds in, so I'm legit 0 worried at this point. I actually feel so comfortable, it hurts me. Like I'm just, oh my god, this is so good for me. Like I can't believe how good this is for me. I just get a battery. This battery is super late, but it also doesn't really matter. Like I can perhaps move across the map, see if I can do anything here. Have a little blast. Have a little blast. Just going across. I should actually go for this attack. I'm like, yeah, I think I should, because his Oracle is about to pop out right now. I realize that because I can count. Oh, force field, force field, force field. Oh, force field again. So I get his 1 Stalker down. He killed 2 of my units. Now I kill a second one of his units, and I should actually go for that freaking Oracle. And then at least the Oracle stays over here. I actually wish I would have cancelled my Robo at this point, I think, and went for a Twilight Council. I think that was a mistake. After scouting the Stargate, I think cancelling going for Twilight is better. Very often. Or you need to go for like an Immortal all-in, which is also, honestly, or like a Prism, just build a Prism with this. I think that's also fine. Like, these things are not necessarily bad. It's just, I do need to do it then. So I can't, oh, here I think I could have probably force shielded him in. I didn't quite do that. I have units in position to practically deal with all the harass he can throw at me. I haven't built any real tech yet though, just building an Immortal. Honestly, this feels like a really bad response. So I'm kind of late hitting an Immortal timing, but not really either. It really should be over in my favor at this point, but my poor response here makes it not so much, and makes me put a lot of my eggs into one basket, which is exactly not what I want. I'm trying to find where his Oracles are. I don't want them to join up and start attacking my probes. Get a Twilight Council. I mean, I could have built this Twilight like legit a minute ago. I could have built it instead of the Robo. That would have actually just been the best. But I didn't do that. So now I'm moving out of position. Natural completely open. If an Oracle had flown in here, could have gotten 3-4 kills. Actually a bad move by me. Do not appreciate that, Kevin. That was not smart. I also have very poor pylon vision around the map. Also just bad vision altogether. I don't have an observer out. So he kills another one of my workers. I'm actually getting pretty upset by this. Kills 2 more workers. I'm like, uh-oh. Stalker's not in position. Could probably get another kill or 2 over there. Yep, there we go. So he's doing a lot of work here in getting back into the game. And I'm not doing a lot of work in making stuff happen. Which is not what you want in life. Absolutely not. And despite having a pretty decent lead earlier, I'm kind of throwing it away by just making bad moves. Tried to go for another kill. Didn't quite get it. But it was close. He got 1 kill there instead of the 2 that he probably wanted to. And yeah, the situation isn't comfortable anymore. Like it was very comfortable, but now after losing so many workers, I can't actually lose anything anymore. Like I need to set up defensively. I have poor vision. I want to go for a counter attack with Adept, and I'm like, well, can I even afford to do that, or will it just die to one of his attack? I don't know if he has a 3rd base or not. I'm getting a Dark Shrine, so my goal is pretty simple. I want to, you know, get some DTs into his base and win the game like that, but so far that absolutely ain't happening. So there's some Stalkers in my main base. So I see him moving in. He has a lot of Stalkers. I just really want to get these DTs in as well. That's my goal in life right now, because he's out on the map, you know. If you're out on the map, oh, his Oracle scouts my Prism, so I can't even warp in my DTs. I'm really sad about that. Like, okay, can't do anything here. I'm just being spotted. Like, I guess that's life as well. I kill one of his Stalkers. Almost kill a 2nd one, but not quite. Now I'm just in a weird position, I think. Like a really weird position. I kind of want a 4th base, but I'm completely unaware of what's happening in this game. Like my upgrades are late. I have no sense of timing on his 4th base. I didn't dare warping in any DTs. He now has built a Prism or a Phoenix to deal with my Prism. I really need some observer so I can get vision out on the map. So without vision out on the map, I have no clue where to move. My blink is done, which is nice, I guess, but yeah, it's a bad situation compared to what it should have been. The game should have been straight up over after my early game, but it wasn't, and that sucks. Observer's gonna move across the map. Just to get some vision here, I see him moving in. He can actually just blink into my main, but probably would have been risky and a bad move. Keep some of my Stalkers alive, some of them die. Some trades here, nothing too crazy. Like this is just PvP, you know, you're just fighting. Now I get my first DT, legit like 2.5 minutes after my Dark Shrine finishes. Really not too happy how I played in this game. And in this series in general. I felt like I was quite nervous the entire series. I think it shows. Like just bad moves a lot of the time. I thought I saw his Prism going to the left side, but I guess it didn't. His Oracles come back in. I didn't have anything there. He's getting so much freaking damage done with these Oracles. Really the only thing keeping him alive. I'm warping some Stalkers. Trying to keep this area kind of occupied. I still have no clue if he even has a 3rd base. I mean, I know he has a 3rd, but I haven't gotten confirmation on it. I have no confirmation on whether he has a 4th base or not. Like, I'm so in the dark. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Just have no clue what's kicking off right now. My worker count is quite low. Like 62, 63, something like that, I think. So now my adapt or my DT is finally going in. And I see, okay, he actually has full saturation over here on that 4th base. And I wanted to push him forward, but I wasn't so sure if I could. Not on top of this ramp. Mess up my blinks as I lose in another dude. Kill only 2 workers here with that DT and then I lose it. So at this point I'm like, okay, this is... Like I'm not even ahead anymore. Like here, like I really wasted a good opportunity at winning this series with ease. But luckily I had a secret strategy in my back pocket. So I'd been practicing a little bit with Gerald. And Gerald was playing this really funky style, which focused on Colossus in PvP. And it actually was working relatively well. It surprised me. I was like, man, that makes no sense. Colossus, they're supposed to suck, but they worked relatively well against high charge slot counts, and then you just pump in Immortals and Disruptors, and you have a pretty powerful army. And you can build it off of 4 bases with an 8 gas count. Just get a lot of cannons, and then you start fighting for map control. You can expand behind it, build DTs, or go into Stargate. And I thought this was a really cool kind of like a comeback mechanic. Because very often, if you continue trying to take more bases at this point, what happens is that you just lose. Because you spread yourself too thin, your opponent's going to have more gateways, more reinforcements, better upgrades. So instead what you do is you make the game smaller. The playing field much smaller, which makes it harder for him to outplay you. You're basically saying, hey, if I can make this game go long and I can max out on a good army, I can take fights. But if we're constantly fighting with small forces, and you're just going to have more money than me, because I know he's taking his 5th base right now, and I know there's no way that I can be taking my 5th base. He's probably already, you know, he's getting his +3 attack, or his whatever, his +3 and +2 armor. Like, he's better upgrades than me. I know he's a double fortune enjoyer. Here he goes in with a lot of these zealots. I defend the right side relatively easily, but I don't have so much defensively here. I snipe his observer, which is a freaking huge move, because now my DTs are going to be fantastic as well. I clear a lot of the stalkers over here. Colossus pops out on top of it. More zealots being warped in as well, as I completely clear the right side army. And at the same time, my Colossus doing a lot of work over here as well. DT still going ham too, getting so many shots in. Super Battery helping me out. The fact I didn't pop a Super Battery on the right side was great as well. And I just kind of clean him up. Now, he did trade, and trading is almost always good for someone that's going Stalker Zealot. But he lost so much supply that I don't actually think this was very good. Like, it wasn't the end of the world for him, but it definitely wasn't very good. And I have my first Colossus out. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I still have a chance. I just need to get more Colossus out. I need to be careful with what I do now. I don't just want to aimlessly wander out on the map. I just need more stuff. I need more stuff. I want cannons. I want the game to be as stable as possible before I go in anywhere. As he decides to send in another prism. Or I think I killed this prism earlier. I can't quite, or maybe it's the same prism. I can't remember. Either way, he goes in with a prism. I try to snipe it. Don't quite get it, but I warp in 3 more stalkers. And just keeping it simple. On 4 bases, no biggie. Snipe this prism, boom. That's out of there. And ideally, I'd have some more vision on the right side as well. I'm getting closer and closer to max. Now that I've cleared this prism, I'm happy with that. I'm like, okay, kill this prism. That's good stuff. Getting Archons in there. More Colossus. Have some Immortals. So Zealots are not going to be big of an issue. I have Immortals, so if he blinks forward to try and kill my Colossus, my Immortals will be pumping him as well. I have Archons for tanking. I have some force fields for the Zealots too. So I just have a lot to deal with a very primitive army, which is the army he's going for. So I'm just trying to secure a 5th base while I'm pushing out as well. So I blink in forward like a bit of an idiot. And this actually turns into a very bad fight, because I had no vision of where his army was. I end up losing 2 Colossus for free. I have to blink forward. Luckily, the Immortals are pumping as well over here. I still have 1 Colossus out, but this was not a great start. Of the fight, because I lose 2 Colossus, and ideally you keep all your Colossus alive, to be quite honest, because Colossus are freaking sick to have in your army. Because they're just massive bait. You really want to kill them. It's so important to kill Colossus. I also just lost my final Immortal, pretty much. My Colossus in the back is pushing out some damage. I do kill a lot of Stalkers, as I'm kind of afraid of just pushing in right now. I'm like, okay, I still have these 2 Robos. I can just continue pumping. He most likely wants to be... wants to remax on the same army, because he's afraid of dying. So I'm not afraid of him transitioning into something right now. If he is transitioning into something, it might be Archons or something, which I think with Colossus Archon, you're going to be better at. I'm also warping in a lot of Zealots. I thought that I had charge, but I didn't. So that's... we could call it embarrassing, but you could also call it... no, it's just embarrassing, actually. It's not smart. Not a great move, all right? Not a great move at all. So I end up killing the Zealots there on the right side. My 5th base stays alive. I morph a couple of these Archons in once more. And I just want to get cannons absolutely everywhere. I don't want to get too many more workers, because then my army becomes smaller. My goal still is to push at some point and hopefully win the game with a push. I see him moving towards the right side. As this Stalker is almost getting cleared. I'm like, okay, his entire army now is kind of together. I see that he has a Prism coming in. Got a slow warp in. Love to see it. And I have 2 Immortals. I have a bunch of Archons. I have 2 Colossus. and I'm maxed out. I have plenty of cannons everywhere. I just want to fight at this point, I really do. And I'm moving out towards the right side because that's the only base that doesn't have static. So I don't want him attacking my 5th base right now. I just want to get some batteries and cannons up there so that eventually it can defend itself. But that's why I'm pushing out here at this point. And I'm just trying to find a position in which I can kill him. The main goal is that he can't engage in a base trade. If he can engage in a base trade, life would suck for me. So here's kind of walking through a tiny little choke as he's blinking in on top of a lot of my Immortals, which is obviously not great. Because that means that they get full shots off on the Stalkers. And Immortals versus Stalkers is not a fair battle at all. So I'm just pumping more and more Immortals at this point as well. And I have so many Archons that I don't even think I really need the Colossus anymore. He's mainly focusing on a Stalker count anyway. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, hey, I think I can just straight up walk in here. He's up in upgrades. I think he was up 1 upgrade. But I believe he has lower supply because he has more workers probably. Also because I just had some good fights. And my army value is way, way higher. So my main issue here is that as long as I don't lose detection, I don't think I can actually lose this game. I don't think it's possible. So he's trying to set up the surround of a lifetime. And I'm like, okay, if you try to set up a surround, that means I can fight in every single direction. That's actually kind of what happens here. Is that my Archons were well positioned for the Zealot flank. My Immortals are pumping as well. I think I lost like 6 supply. 2 of that supply was a prison. So I'm just looking at this and thinking to myself, man, this is freaking great. Like, I'm happy with how this is going, absolutely. I think somewhere at this point I realize I don't have charge. I just want to kill a free base. So I want him to attack into me. I don't want to attack into him. So I just start attacking bases on the side with his army close by, so that he's forced into making a move. I just lost the Colossus that I rallied across. I think at this point I realize my charge. No, still not. Never mind. He blinks forward once more. My Zealot's coming in from the north side as well, definitely helping out. More and more Stalkers. So I'm killing this base. Archon count still healthy. Immortal gets rallied, dies as well. Fantastic moves. As DT shows up, I don't think he actually has detection here anymore either. I see that he has some probies down there. I think at this point I pretty much realized that I've won. I mean, I have a 5th base, and he also still has a 5th base, but it still feels very good for me. Like, it's because my army is just better. Like, his eco advantage isn't really there anymore, and he's getting caught now in the corner, so he either needs to recall or he's pretty much freaking dead. And yeah, he just is pretty much freaking dead. To kill all of his Stalkers that were caught there, and I think at this point I realize I'm ahead. And also at this point I think I realize I forgot my charge. Maybe I never realized I forgot my charge and just realized after watching the replay. I remember at some point realizing I forgot my charge. Maybe I already started it and I missed it during my large speech. Maybe here, when I warp in like 10 cells. Oh, wait a second, these guys look real slow. What's up with that, huh? Oh, my charge just finished. Okay, yeah, so I did realize. Okay, nice. There we go. Yeah, as I'm marching towards victory, I'm very happy. Big fat scream, don't hear it because I'm muted. And I managed to advance up into the next round where I'll have to play against Showtime. Wow, and we're already instantly in the game. What a smooth transition there. Harstem of the previous series. As we have another PvP on our hands. I know all of you are not tired of it yet. This was played... Was it the day after? I think so. I think I had a day of preparation in between those two. And I had like a... Well, what I always like to do is just kind of figure out what my opponents like to play. And then what they have played in the past. And then I also like to imagine what they possibly could be playing, right? Because there are always things that they could learn within a day or 2 days, or just introducing a new opener. So you kind of try to have like an overview of the builds that they like the most and that you're most likely to see, and then some builds that are possible in a best of 5, and maybe less likely but possible. And the one build I had, I'd kind of identified as a build that would be very likely to be played in this best of 5 was to adapt into Stargate. I thought that was a very common build that he just seemed to play very, very often in best of 3s and best of 5s. And especially because I performed so poor against it yesterday against the Stargate opener, against the Skillless games, I was like, okay, you know what? This is what I want to have a very solid response to. So that's where I focused most of my attention. So I experimented a bit with my move outs, with my timings on things, and I had a very pretty clean response, I felt like. And when I was playing it, I was very happy with it. And it's just a 6 unit before Warp Gate, Proxy Pylon across the map, Warp in 2 units, Battery at home, and Twilight Council as a response to the pretty much, yeah, the two adept Stargate opener. So I'm just kind of scouting around, figuring out what's kicking off. I get the Sentry Stalker, I get the Warp Gate. So a change already from my series with Skillet, where I would often fake not playing sentries. Here I didn't actually care. I was like, okay, if you want to see that I'm building a sentry as my first unit, you can go and see it. I prefer having a faster sentry out so I can scout quicker. That is more important to me. So it's really just kind of thinking of my own strength as a player that can react to things rather than trying to trick my opponent a little bit. That was more the plan here for me. So I'm just, you know, throwing down a little pylon over here. He's not showing anything. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna block your freaking Nexus then, mate. If you're not down to show me nothing, then guess what? You're not getting a freaking Nexus anytime soon. Like, you're gonna need to show something, and it's just not showing it. I'm like, okay. Probably means you're doing some bad boy stuff. So I'm preparing for that Adept Oracle thing. I know he doesn't want to show it, and I've seen him not show when he plays that particular build. Like, not showing his first 2 units when he's playing Adept Openers. So I'm like, okay. All good. I really want to get a pylon out, proxied. And I'm scouting with my hallucination. And kind of taking it from there. So he goes in with his adept. So now I got my confirmation that indeed it is an adept opener. And I start looking for his adept instantly. Get my battery in here. Poof. It's down. And a Stargate. I'm like, okay. I know what you're up to now, buddy. I know exactly what you're up to. As he gets another shade in, which is actually pretty cool. That actually is. I'm not gonna lie. Pretty cool. I'm afraid of him finishing that, so I just move back. And now I'm just going to be chasing that Oracle a little bit. So I get a Stalker. Gonna get another Stalker. And one thing that I practiced against was a kind of 4 Adept counter-attack. Is where they attack with the Adept plus the Oracle. So I just build a Cybercore in my wall. Which might be a bit over-eager, but I think it's a good call. Just being this extra safe. I warp in or hallucinate some Stalkers as well. You can feel that this response is already much more prepared than when I did it against Skillet. Like, I really kind of, you know, I worked on it. I really did work on it. So I take down this thing. He tries to go in here with his Oracles. I take down 1 Oracle. I take down a 2nd Oracle. Get another Force Field down. And warp in some more Stalkers. Adept's now coming in from the back as well. So he loses both of his valuable units. He's losing a lot of mining time. He's losing Stalkers left, right, and center. I have lost all of my sentries. That is absolutely true. And yes, I'm still losing some of my Stalkers as well. But overall, I think this was a really good trade. Because I've dealt with the Oracles, which he invested a lot of gas in. I still have pressure on him right now. Like, I'm still putting on pressure. I'm like, hey, he has 2 gates, I have 2 gates. We're producing the same thing, and I have more Stalkers currently. So that means that I'm just winning these fights. I forced a super battery. I just get my blink out as well. I'm like, okay. And the only way that I can possibly think of losing in this game is if he decides to... if he goes for DTs, and I don't have detection ready. So I'm like, okay, what I'm gonna just do here is get detection ready, and hopefully I'll be fine. Kill all of his Stalkers, kill a couple more of these workers, and I just continue building my own workers and taking a lot of his stuff out. Just blindly building a Cybercore here once again. So it's the 2nd Cybercore that isn't really necessary that I'm building. I'm playing perhaps overly safe, but I know I'm so far ahead. Really, the only way I'm losing is to... is really just to DTs. I'm really shocked. I honestly was shocked that no DT showed up. I was like, oh man, I was so sure there was going to be DTs. I was even a bit disappointed. I remember thinking, I thought that was a good call. I was proud of myself, you know. I really took some serious measures. And then I get 2 observers here. I get 2 extra gateways. The 2 gateways are for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is so that I'm safe if he decides to go for some massive attack. Reason number 2, if he's going for an expand, then I can perhaps try and kill him. I think this move out that he did here is freaking insane. Nonsensical. Absolutely. Like, that is so crazy risky. If I was still there with my Stalkers, he legit just would have died. He would have lost all of his Stalkers for free. Or if my blink was like 5 seconds faster. Or 10 seconds quicker. Like, he's in so much trouble. That was such a risky move. But then again, if you're behind, you often have to play riskier moves. I send this observer across the map. I have a 2nd observer. So I'm playing super safe, right? But I know that I'm ahead. And I have nothing really to worry about. Setting some Stalkers across. Getting my 3rd base up and running. Bumpy dumpy dum. Feeling good. I see a stalkers here. I'm like, ooh, there's quite a few stalkers. I was surprised by the stalker count, not gonna lie. So, he moves back. I wonder if I blink forward. Oh, lag. See that lag spike? Kind of messed up. Oh, he blinks back in time. I'm thinking of going towards the right side. I'm just kind of scouting to see what he's up to, you know? I want to figure out what you're doing, buddy. I want to know what you're doing. See some stalkers being warped in. I don't know how many gates he's on. I think it's on 3. I count his stalkers. I count my own. Now, I'm not great at counting numbers bigger than 10, but I do believe I have more. And I can get an angle here where there's no battery really on this side of the Nexus. So I'm like, okay, if I can just force a super battery out of him, like really early on, that would be great. But he's, in this case, so now he does that. I'm like, okay, force the super battery. I'm just going to piss off. Like, I'm not going to push into a super battery. That's stupid. Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to continue kind of going at it. I'm just blinking back. So now the super battery is finished. I blink in, or I move forward, and I just blink back. Zealot's actually tanking a lot here as well. I have a sick concave too. And I just kind of win the fight, because I have way more stalkers than him. And he taps out with a GG with a very clean win. And that was beautiful, because it was a big preparation. So I'm happy with that W, for sure. Because it's rare that something goes exactly according to plan, at least in my life. Usually I plan things out and then, you know, shit hits the fan and yeah, you know, it doesn't work anymore. But here, exactly, pretty much how it would go in my head. I think I was a bit too afraid of the DTs. I was just too scared. I think I really was just too scared. And that almost made that game harder than it should have been. But it didn't. It ended up going just fine. I'm really happy with how I played that series. Or the series, that game, the particular game. Second map is going to be the River of Ghost. The Ghost River. This is a tricky map. Not a map that I, as mentioned before, I generally like. Just going for a more standard approach here. Second pylon, look at him harassing. He's not getting anything done. Yeah. I remember feeling very good in this series. Like, my hands were freaking fast. I was feeling smart as well. It feels good to feel smart in a series. Like, oh man, the brain is working overtime here, you know? I love the fact that I remember to do the cybernetics core block against potential adepts. Like, I took so many precautions in that last game and I still won. You know, it feels good to do something proper and then win. I was very happy with it. I really was very happy with it. Just kind of roaming around, figuring out what's kicking off. So I'm expecting him not to play that same build again. So if I was him, I'd be pooping my pants. Because he's probably never seen this particular response before. And he was really far behind after it. So all of a sudden, his... what do you call it? His range of builds has decreased massively after the first game. From his perspective. That's what I'm thinking, right? It's like, is he gonna get the balls to go for a double adept Stargate build again, or a 4 adept Stargate build, which is one of his favorite builds to play? Probably not, because so I pretty much caught his plan and shut it down in the first game, and that is really discomforting. It is not nice to happen for you in a series. So I was super happy with my preparation here. I was like, man, this is cool. And I saw a stalker now, throw down my robotics facility. I get my pylon here on the low ground. That way I can warp onto on the high ground. I can warp onto the low ground if I take a fast third base, which is, of course, what I have been doing in this matchup against Blink build orders very often. There's multiple ways you can play against Blink, by the way. You can also go for attacks. You can go for Prism, double adept drops, that type of stuff. There's really a lot of options that you have. And I just find that if I go for a fast third, my positions are often just great. Just good positions. I don't mind them at all. Sometimes I don't. My position becomes worse because I play a little bit too safe afterwards, but most of the time I'm just in a great spot. So get my 4th sentry out. Start my my observer as well. Chrono boosted. Feeling live. Feeling good. And he's over here. I want to make sure that no other units are joining that army and no other units are being warped in. So I see 2 stalkers. I'm like, okay, it's kind of sussy. Well, it's not sussy, but it's like, hey, what are you doing here, buddy? Like, are you planning on moving out with those stalkers? Or are you chilling back at home? And it's important for me to know, because I need to respond by matching his, his gate unit count. So I see 3 stalkers, 3 sentries. I'm like, okay, I know pretty much what's kicking off. I have 4 sentries. I have 2 stalkers myself, so I'm really not worried. I know he can't have an observer out because he played Twilight, so I can just follow his army, basically. There's nothing he can do about it. yeah, he just needs to piss off. And now I'm getting my first Immortal. Life is actually quite good. I think this is a really good situation for me. My Nexus is almost done. We're 4 minutes and 40 seconds into the game. So I want to scout, hey, what was your Nexus timing? Like, how are you looking with the Nexus? And it's probably going to be down like 30 seconds or so. So that just means I'm going to be up 5-6 workers for no real reason. And throw down a Forge as well. As a response, I see a third gas. Important to note. See a robotics facility, important, because so basically anything that is being invested into non-gateway and non-gateway units means he can't push out as hard. So if I see 2 gateways going up right now on 2 or 3 gas, I could be a bit afraid of an incoming push. But if I see a third gas, maybe a fourth gas, a battery here, a robotics facility there, like a forge, all of these are things that will not help him in a push soon to be executed. You know, I'm still going to need to build a battery, but I'm mainly trying to deal with potential harass. I'm not dealing with a 6-gate Blink Stalker attack that could be hitting me at any point. That's just simply not the reality of things. I wish I would have chrono boosted my probes a bit more. I think I really wish I would have done more chrono boost on the probes. I think that would have been, quite frankly, a good move. I actually do think that would have been a very good move. So I'm sad that I didn't quite go for that. Oh, poor me. A couple more pylons. Just scouting with my hallucinations as well, of course. Just keeping an eye on where his stalkers could potentially be coming from. Because he wants to harass with Blink. Like, he just researched Blink, which is pretty expensive, and he hasn't been capable of using it once. He hasn't gotten any kills with it. Didn't really get any map control either. Like, he's just sucking right now. Why do we have Blink? And I'm feeling it. Like, I have Immortals. Big guns. Charge on the way. Boom. Let's go, baby. So I'm scouting with my hallucination. Getting more and more gates. So once again, just kind of going for that zealot attack style that I played against Skilus as well. On the, I think it was the first map on Alcyone against Skilus, and here on this map, what's that, map number 2. Fort base coming up, and I'm getting ready to start moving across. I think I just saw Templar Archives being built as well. I don't think I actually respond to that at all, as he kills my fort base. I'm out of position. I want to move across the map, but I didn't quite get to do that. And losing this fort is really bad, because that's where a lot of my investment was going into. Now I feel in an awkward spot. Like, my attack isn't supposed to be all in. I just want to control his fort base timing, really. But he doesn't allow me to move across the map, because he's still on the map with his stalker. So I feel super uncomfortable at this moment, and kind of ill-timed with my attack. I feel like I'm not doing a good job. Now I lost my fort, so him defending is going to be completely fine. Like, there's no pressure on him. If he just defends his fort base, or even if he pulls back to his third, he's going to be in a fine spot. But my push is also hitting late. I think I'm supposed to be hitting, honestly, with 3 Immortals. Now I'm building a Templar Archives as well, because I want to get some Archons to break his force fields. Which is not necessarily bad, but it really puts me much more all-in than I should be. And he's been mining much more gas than I have, because he went up to 4 gas relatively quickly. I stayed on 2 gas, because I wanted this massive zealot push, right? So I'm like, okay, this is not entirely how I imagined my future would be, you know, especially after their solid early game. Faster Nexus, quick Immortals, no damage being taken. I was feeling good about myself, not gonna lie. But now, not as much anymore. I'm trying to get some rotations in. See if I can get anything done. But he is very good with the movement. Very, very good. I sent some zealots into his natural. I think he has some units in position though, as I try that. So this push gets stopped. These zealots are trying to clear stuff here, and he just burst open the force fields that I put down, and I'm just in a world of trouble. Zealots going down. He has a massive army, and I don't really. So my goal at this point is pretty much just surviving until I get Robo-Bay units out. I'm going to get a second robotics facility as well. And I'm just pretending to be strong. Kind of the Sun Tzu method, you know? It's like, pretend to be strong when you're weak. Except then I realized I'm actually really weak, and my opponent also realizes. So that didn't quite go according to plan. Yes, or with a couple more units. As he's just kind of busting my head open here. And he had more Archons, had a lot of Zealots. And yeah, I was transitioning out of this already as well. And he just catches me right in the middle of that. Absolutely blasts me. Despite having a pretty decent early game, I didn't manage to leverage that into anything. And he takes the second map and ties up the series. And that brings us to map number 3, which is going to be Crimson Court. He's harassing me again, look at this. I remember feeling so fast on this day, actually. I don't know, quick. Feeling quick. Do-do-do. Feeling groovy. Do-do-do-do-do-do. And just the same old Sentry Stalker. I mean, I'm feeling good about this build. I really have no issues with it at all. I was a little bit worried. I remember thinking after the first game, I was like, okay, he just kind of found a way to beat me. What was my issue here? Okay, what went wrong? So I was just kind of identifying where his weak spots were and where my potential strengths are. I'm just thinking, okay, what happens if I go for an Immortal Glaive timing as a plan? Okay, the general plan. I'm expecting a similar response from him. Okay, because his Stargate build didn't work. His Blink build didn't really work either, but he managed to get a win. So it's better than what happened in the first game. I don't think he feels comfortable playing that Stargate again necessarily. So I'm expecting him to go for Twilight again. This is a terrible map for proxy, so I'm not expecting that either. I'm just going to throw down a fast robotics facility, and I'm preparing for pretty much a mirror image of that last game, okay? And then I want to do something different in my follow-up where I can potentially kill him. And I had prepared a Glaive Immortal timing, just in case someone would go very low gas quickly into charge. I thought that might be good to go for a Glaive Immortal timing. You know, if they play Blink into charge, low gas. Then I was thinking, what actually if he plays higher gas? It's not like he's instantly gonna have Archons. The main issue is going to be maybe that he can get a big sentry count. But on this map, sentries aren't so useful because the choke between the natural and the third is so large that I can always attack there. So I thought, okay, so then he doesn't really have a strong, you know, a strong spot where he can fight. And I decided to kind of have that as my main plan. I can always adapt in a situation, but as the general plan coming into this map, that's kind of what I identified. I think I watched like the last replay for like 25 seconds or so, and then seeing where, you know, I was strong, where he was strong, seeing what we could potentially do. He also changed already here. He skipped the battery. Last time he built a battery because he might have been a little bit afraid. This time he didn't skip the battery. He skipped the battery, didn't build it. And I think he's also going to be a bit quicker here with his Nexus timing, because he knows I'm building a Nexus. I mean, he still needs to get some stuff out of his Twilight and build some Stalkers, but just for safety's sake. But his Nexus is a little bit quicker, I think, than it was last game. So I'm getting my Twilight Council. He has his Twilight Council popping off as well. I was thinking of this the other day. What if I don't get tech at all in this matchup? And I just play with pure gate units. And then after seeing what my opponent does, that's when I get tech. So if I see Twilight, I can get like a late Robo. Or if I see a Robo, I can get like a late Twilight or a late Stargate. If I see a Stargate, I can get a late Twilight. Things like that. I was really thinking about that, just going for pure gateway units. But I think that's very weak against Immortal All-Ins. That might be an issue. So here I faked the push. So I had like a fake Immortal, fake Prism. The fake Prism I'm gonna send into the natural. Kind of what I did against Skillis. Where I flew into vision. Here my plan is to fly my Prism into his vision. And then move away from vision. To make him believe that I have a Prism just kind of waiting for him to move out. If I do that, then it's scarier for him to move out. That forge that I'm building here is kind of a fake. It's not really a forge. Like, I mean, it is a forge. Actually, shouldn't kill this. I should have let him scout. Because now he might be more afraid. I should have let him scout. So here, look, I'm going in. And then I'm moving away. And I hope that he saw it. I hope that he saw it. But he didn't, I think. Because I wanted him to send his Stalkers back. Because the hardest part for me is moving across the map. So I'm starting my +1 here. But I'm not really in it to get a +1 attack, you know. I'm not here to really do that. I'm getting my glaives as well. Getting a Prism out. Cutting workers. I lost track of his Stalkers, which is not brilliant if you're trying to attack. But then again, I played this particular situation already, like many times in practice. So I kind of knew that if he attacks me, what I need to do is counterattack. Because I probably have better reinforcements. I'm sad I didn't have an extra pylon there, by the way. That would have been really good. Just in case he goes full base trade, I have some backup pylons rather than just all Artosis pylons worldwide, you know, that's not great. So he's trying to kill this thing. I'm setting up extra pylons here. Boom, boom, boom. He moves forward, but he just doesn't have the damage output to deal with my 3 Immortals. Although there's almost no Adepts in this army, it still is pretty okay. And now the only way that I can lose this fight, I think, is if he kills my Prism. So I just unsiege it. Oh, pick up. Call me Clem, baby, because I'm owning. And yeah, he taps out with a GG. Poof! Big fat W. 2-1 in favor of El Harstem. And I'm feeling good about myself. Holy crap. I'm feeling good about it. Because it's been a while since I beat 2 top tosses in a row. And I'm on the verge of doing just that. As we start into game number... What is it? 4. There we go. Alcyone. And every single game so far, he had scouted me. Except in this game. So I'm like, okay, he doesn't scout me. Let me pretend like I'm also not scouting. But I am scouting. I'm just scouting around the map. So he's most likely proxying. And I'm trying to figure out where his proxy is. So he believes I am proxying. I believe he is proxying. But I'm not actually proxying. So in my logic, I'm winning. You know, because I did the mental edge. And I know what's kicking off. So I'm just going to get a lot of gateway units very early on. And if I find this proxy, if it's a Stargate, I can hopefully walk over and kill it. Because I find a Robo over here, I'm like, ooh. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, is there any way I can kill that pylon? And I think the answer is no. And here, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am not great at improvising, okay? I am someone that likes to have things done ahead of time. And what I did here was absolutely improvising. So I actually have a response for Proxy Robo with my regular build in which I feel very comfortable. But here, because I scouted him so early, I thought to myself, oh, I can just get a really fast robotics facility and probably be completely fine. Still get quite a few units out. And this is probably a better response compared to what I usually do. But it is different, and I didn't quite know all the timings of everything. Like I'm not so... I work quite a bit of the clock, like the clock on the left side above the minimap. But I also work a lot of just like contextual timing. So like, okay, when I do my first warp in, after that I'm supposed to do this. Or when X happens, I'm supposed to do Y. So I didn't feel super comfortable with this build order. But then this happened. I get a Stalker, I get an Adept, I get a second Stalker. Yes, I use 3 force fields. But... he's all-inning off of 1 base, so the game is officially over at this point. So, although I felt very uncomfortable, at this point I knew, okay, it's literally impossible for me to lose this game. I start moving on the map, because I'm an idiot. I see a sentry, or his prism. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Very cute of you, buddy, but that's simply just not going to work, as I just have my Immortal ready over here, and life is going to be fine. He drops on top of this, drops a force field. I realize I don't have a battery on the high ground yet, because I forgot about that part, which is fairly important. He snipes my first Immortal. I have to pull all of my workers here. And now I don't have an Immortal. He's going to have 2 Immortals soon. I am going to have a Prism, which is great, but Prisms don't actually deal damage. And Prisms are really only good if you have an Immortal. I end up losing this pylon as well. So I lose an Immortal, I lose a pylon, I lose a bunch of mining time. Now I'm trying to chase him with my Prism with sentries. I had some downtime on my robotics facility as well. I don't have a lot of mining because I rushed out a robotics facility. So usually you have more workers with this particular setup. I don't have that either. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. I don't actually think I'm ahead anymore. After killing 3 units for free, I'm in a position where I think I might actually be kind of losing. So I'm trying to send units over to this area. He's pretending to snipe stuff. I don't actually pick up my Adept, but he doesn't target it either, so it's all okay. I just don't have any units here, like hardly any. I'm trying to kill my worker right now, so I can start my next Immortal. Then I forget to turn my battery back on here for a little bit. I'm like, hey, why isn't it healing? I'm like, ah, right, I need to turn it back on. Then it starts healing again. I just don't have a lot of DPS. My Immortal isn't quite here yet either. It's just not great. Trying to catch some of his units on the retreat, but as a result I think I just lose a gateway unit instead. Trying to get more batteries down desperately. I probably should have a battery up here, like I should have had that about 2 minutes ago, but I still don't have it at this point. I don't have enough sentries to continuously force field. As he's just gonna push back in with his massive army, trying to get some force fields. Super battery gets activated. as he just has 4 immortals. I have a single one right now. I'm starting to realize that despite my unlosable position in the early game, I am actually losing the game. Which is really, really sad. Because this really should have been practically unlosable, to be quite honest. I have a second immortal, but it was in the main base, just kind of hanging out, trying to get it down, and then here I realized I lose the game. I was very upset here. Because this should have been the 3-1, absolutely, 100% of the time. And I know now that that's not the case anymore. I think I say some bad words. God, I'm lucky the microphone isn't on. Yeah, the monkey scratches himself after making dumb mistake. Not brilliant. All right. Well, that does mean we're going into the 2-2 situation here versus Showtime. I took off my my sweater as well. It's getting a little bit too hot for me. Beautiful red shirt. It's not regular red, it's a bit darker red. I don't know what that color is called. Bordeaux red, maybe? Burgundy? One of these. Nice type of red. This shirt is really cool. We accidentally all had the same shirt. This exact one, bought at the H&M. Like 4 years ago at a tournament. Or 5 years. Me, Lambo, and sort of. And we all wore it on the same day as well. Just randomly. Without being aware of one another, even having the shirt. Yeah, it's great. Great day. That's a highlight in my life. All the boys wearing the same shirt accidentally. That has nothing to do with this series. Oh, right. I was going to go for a fake proxy pylon here. That's what I decided. What a good decision as well by me. So Showtime has, I think, 3 responses versus just proxies in general. So his first response is where he'll go adept into robotics facility and then go for a prism and try to counterattack. Another response is going for adept into Stargate and then try to get damage by, building oracles. And the final response is going for, I think, just Sentry Stalker, a bunch of units, and then praying that you don't die, basically. That's also one of his responses, which is a response that I'm generally praying for stuff to happen. I think is a very high tier move. I'm a big fan of that as well. So I send in my probe over here, pretending to scout late. And then I piss off. I'm like, okay, I don't see any sentry here, which is interesting. He didn't spot my sentry either. And I just want to kind of block his natural. I see the adept, which sucks, because now my dude gets picked off. I didn't quite want my dude to get picked off. And it could be one of two things, right? Because it's the adept response. So I'm thinking it's either Robo or it's Stargate over here. Which one is it gonna be? I don't actually know, because I can't look into the future and I don't have map hacks. So I'm just kind of chilling, sitting back, relaxing, hanging around. Just gonna get my units out. 6 units. Hope that I can get my battery in time. He could have finished that shade, but I think he would have lost both of his adepts, or at least one of them. Might have killed a sentry though. I'm not sure if that's worth it. I don't know if I killed his adept. I can't remember. Do I not get it? I don't think I see it. I don't get it. I don't actually kill the adept. So I use 2 force fields, don't get a kill. Great start for me. As you can see, I'm hyped. I also didn't actually get a hallucination across the map, so I have no clue what he's doing. Then here he finishes this shade, which I think is an enormous blunder, actually. Because he loses 2 adepts, maybe even a 3rd one. I use another thing. Did I kill that adept? I didn't see it. I think I did, right? Yeah, probably. So I killed 3 adepts, I think. And I lost just 1 sentry, so that shade was absolutely terrible by him. Although I did use all of my energy at this point. So I have legit no energy left. Then here I make a very high tier play. Look at this one. Going straight into a stasis ward. But I have 2 more stalkers coming in. So I lose 1 sentry. And he loses 2 stalkers and an adept. So that's a good trade for me again. So I'm like, okay, I'm really far ahead. The moment these guys come back out of their, their little coma that they were in, I'm going to be in a buzzing spot for sure. And I don't see him here. Just getting a lot of freaking workers. I'm really feeling good about this situation, to be honest. I really am feeling good. The only problem here is that he can just use the super battery. So I just decide to trade one Stalker for one Stalker and then piss off. But I know he's getting something behind this, right? I know it's going to be Oracles, and I know it's going to be 2 Oracles because he waited for this moment. So he goes in. I'm not actually sure how good my position is right now. So I kill a lot of his units. He probably had to cut a lot of workers as well, right? I think he had to cut a lot of workers. So I think his blink is delayed because he built so many units. I think he has less workers than me, but he still has the 2 Oracles as well. So maybe it's not that bad, but I'm not actually sure, right? It's so hard to judge these situations because I hadn't played them that much. I had played them enough where I felt comfortable now with this opener, but not, I don't know. And when I got this kill here, I felt very comfortable because the difference between 1 and 2 Oracles is so big. With 2 Oracles, you can attack through batteries, but with 1 Oracle, you can't. You can only use Stasis Wards. Stasis Wards aren't half as good. So here I decided, okay, I'm just going to move out. I'm going to attack. That's going to be my plan. And also, with only a single Oracle, you just have less room for scouting, basically. So I wanted to get a 3rd base and then attack to cancel my opponent's 3rd base. That was literally my entire plan. I see 2 gateways going down. I'm like, okay, that's weird. Should I do that too? Or should I just get a Nexus? I remember thinking... Because gateways, they take 46 seconds to build, right? 7 more seconds to morph, and then you get 2 units. So about after a full minute after building the gates, they're going to be useful. And I was thinking, when do I want to peak? And I want to peak in about 45 seconds from now, not in 60 seconds from now. So I was like, okay, I'll just get a fast Nexus, and then I'll try to cancel his thing. And actually, him building those 2 gateways actually lowers his unit count, right? Because he probably needs to delay a warp in or something. So I'm keeping my Stalkers at home in case he has an Oracle there. I'm also sending 1 Stalker in front in case there's a stasis. It's very foolproof, you know? You can also look at the map and figure out where stuff is, but I'm not great at that, so I decided not to do it here. I'm trying to spot to see if there's any stasis wards. I don't see them. And then he cancels this battery, so I know he's most likely going to cancel that thing too. I'm like, okay, this is feeling great. I'm afraid of a potential Dark Shrine of my opponent. I'm building my own Dark Shrine, so I have the ability to counterattack with a Dark Shrine if I need to. I don't want to attack into this, that would be a huge blunder, but I do want to pretend like I have some pressure on him, right? So I get some batteries. I know he has more gateways than I do right now, so I want to return. It's like, okay, his production is peaking. He's probably owning me at this point, and I realize it's very important for me that he doesn't scout my Dark Shrine, so I make sure that he doesn't go there. Then he goes on top of this pillar. Now, an amateur might say, oh, he's gone, but I have object permanence. And I kill the Oracle with a hallucination. I start warping in a DT. Robotics facility almost done. Forge on the way as well. Because I have... And then this sucks because I really wanted that DT to finish. I think it doesn't finish with like 0.2 seconds or something. I still build a new DT so I can send it across the map. I think to myself, hey, what's the chance that he has DTs as well? And then I think right around here, somewhere, I spot a DT on the map. Like I see it. I see it moving in. I don't know where. Oh, here. Here I see a DT moving in. So I'm like, okay. We can just clear that with a quick blink forward. Then I see another DT going in towards my natural. So now I know I'm feeling good. My own DT, meanwhile, is going across the map, and I'm not sure if he has detection or not. And I just start shift-clicking workers. I see he's long-distance mining from the 3rd, so I'm already up. And he doesn't have DT. And I win. I'm very happy. Woohoo! And I'm out of here. I had dinner still, so went downstairs to eat. And that brings us to our next opponent. And that is going to be our good friend Big Gabe, also known as Hero Marine. Yes, Protoss versus Terran. After 2 epic PvPs, we're back to the matchup with which we started against Clem today. Of course, Protoss versus Terran. But I've learned a lot in the meantime. I've switched from a Stargate player into a Blink player. It's hard to imagine, but I'm a fan of the Blink. I was talking a lot with MaxPax over the past week or so about the Protoss versus Terran matchup. And also before this series, he actually helped me a lot in just, you know, I would ask about specific situations and he would explain it to me. And just watching a lot of his games, he sent me quite a few replays. It was very helpful all around in the Protoss versus Terran matchup. So I started believing a bit more in Blink. And on this particular map, I think post-youth we decided is probably one of the 3 maps that you don't want to play against Terran. There are 3. Post-youth, Crimson Court, and Ghost River. Those are the 3 maps, but you do need to play one. So then I think post-youth is not that bad. And especially because I decided that I wanted to go for a fast 3rd base on the gold. I thought that would be a cool way to play this map. And a full wall initially. So one of the features on this map is that you can full wall it and then you can kind of free yourself by mining out the minerals. So that was going to be my plan. Of course, Reapers can still get in, but nothing else can really get in. So I thought that would be a cool way of playing this. Also, you lock out one Reaper path by fully blocking. So I thought that was also going to be cool. I went for a complete no scout here. I'm also not planning on sending any units across the map at all. 2nd pylon is being built in this location, so I can full wall it with a gateway. So then there's only a single Reaper spot where my opponent can still jump in. I'm going to get a very good eco, no scout, Nexus before core. So yeah, this is literally as good as it's going to get, at least in my mind. And Hero Marine, I kind of had him pegged as a player that would like to play triple CC builds or very aggressive builds. I'm not really expecting like a Reaper expand type of thing, which is something that Clem used to do in the past, but even not that much anymore these days. My main goal is just not to, lose in against anything stupid, against the 2-gas type of stuff. I have no clue what it is. This could be 2-gas, this could be a triple CC, this could literally be anything at this point. All I know is that he built a Reaper, and I'm also not going to get any more information than this. He also is not going to get any information, doesn't see my Twilight Council there. And I'm started mining from this gold base. So I'm instantly starting my blink the moment I can, chrono boosted once as well. And I want to start long distance mining from these patches so I can open it up and potentially take a 3rd base. Also starting a Stalker here instantly, that's great, because with Stalkers I am capable of basically holding anything I can. I want to get a 2nd gateway as well at some point, which I'm just going to throw down right now. And then continue chronoing this blink. Once again, I have no clue what he's doing. I didn't scout with an adapt, as these mineral patches are going to get taken out now. I got both of them down to 5 minerals. So now I can decide whenever I want to open up, I can just open them up with a single probe moving there. Yes, I think I forgot to build my 4th gateway unit, which I wanted to be a Stalker. No, actually I do have it in production, never mind. So this is now empty. I'm just moving down here, sending the Adept over as well, as his Reaper is trying to get up here. Reaper does get up here, but doesn't really get a whole lot of information. My Nexus goes down at the gold, and generally this map, I think it's very difficult to survive, and taking the gold makes it harder to survive. But if you do survive, you basically have 1.5 gold bases and 1.5 regular mineral bases, so you can be on a really low worker count and have insane mineral eco, and that was my plan, to get a very good mineral eco with a low worker count. My robotics facility is going down. I see a bunch of Marines, but no real information here either, to be quite honest. As this could still be anything. Like, he's just showing what he wants to show me. I don't know if there's a factory. I don't know if there's 3 racks. I don't know if there's... Well, it's most likely not a 3 racks build, because then he would be moving out already. But it could still be anything else. And now, to see him move out with at least a couple of units. I'm pulling my Adept back. I have 2 Stalkers on the map here as well. This map has a really short rush distance, by the way, for the people that are not aware. Like, an insanely short rush distance. Shockingly short, really. It shocks me every single time. It actually does. I'm surprised every time. I was like, oh, holy crap. These guys are here fast, aren't they? That's just gonna do a little bit of damage to these Mariners. Just want to shade forward once more. I have a bunch of these Stalkers out now. Now I see freaking 4 Marauders. I'm like, holy crap, what are you up to? As I see that it was a 3 Rex after all, probably with a triple CC somewhere as well, or going down at some point. I'm trying to desperately kite this, but this rush distance is so short that I don't even really get to blink once or twice, and this map is a weird layout, so here I'm kind of getting caught in a weird angle, my control not being brilliant either, so I just pull everything back, and there's really nothing I can do to defend this base. There's also not with the greatest control that I had tried to defend this, so I end up losing way more Stalkers than I think I should. Do end up killing 2 Marauders there. As my Nexus goes down, my Observer falls. I don't have Blink on some of these units. You wonder why I'm not blinking them back. It's because it's on cooldown. So I end up losing like 4 or 5 more Stalkers. And I'm practically freaking dead at this point already. Yeah, Yeah, Pulsute, very short rush distance. Maybe taking the gold here was just a mistake. It's actually one of the things I regret a little bit, I think, is going for this gold-based build. I think it was silly. I don't think I needed to do that either. And if I had done it like that, I think I should have played skipping a robotics facility and way more units early on, more aggressive, more scouting with adept. But this, it feels like I played it a bit too naive in a way, like not correct StarCraft. Because now I'm just, look at this supply block as well, 70 out of 70. My pylon here is about to finish up, so that's something at least. My Robo Bay is on the way. I'm getting observers. Like, the game is not over, but it's not a great spot. I'm trying to retake my gold, which is also difficult for me to do because that area is hard to defend. The only way you can defend your gold is by defending the high ground, because if you're defending from the low ground, it's really hard for Protoss. So I'm just in a crappy spot all around. Can't really take this watchtower either. Getting more and more stalkers, just so I can kind of keep control of the pace of the game. So I add in a cannon here in my natural, in case he decides to go for a drop. I really have not so much information about what he's doing. Now I see him moving out once more. It's a lot of units. They're just trying to move back. I have an Immortal here. He has a stim just activated. I don't think he actually has a medevac with this army, by the way. So I warp in some boys, some zealots with the charge. And I mean, I do get to kind of clean this up, but I'm once again losing quite a bit of my army. Lost my Immortal, lost a couple of Stalkers. Do clear most of his Marauders, but actually starting to feel quite good about this. I'm like, hey, if there's any way that I can make a comeback, this definitely helped me. You know, that was a okay fight. But then I see this amount of units. I'm like, holy crap, never mind. I just don't have the infrastructure to keep up. So he's probably already on 5 barracks, and I'm not. Like, he can poke me from basically wherever. I'm trying to do something here. I'm also afraid of him dropping in towards my natural at this point, because I don't have so much vision. So I see his army rotating back up top, but it still feels like, yeah, there's a drop coming. I pull my workers instantly, and with the Colossus, I can actually kind of hold here. Don't lose too many works. I think I ended up losing 2. So this was actually a good defense. Only lost my cannon there. So I'm trying to fight this little army. But my supply is so ridiculously low that it doesn't feel great. It really doesn't. Just gonna take my 5th gas here. Ideally, I already have a fort base on the way. Or actually, ideally, I already have a fort base done at this point. I should be on 8 gates, should be on double robos, pumping disruptors. Like, he's taken that forward base. I think that was his 3rd, but I'm not even sure about that. It's also possible it's his 4th. Although it would be a very fast fort base, to be honest. I think you take the 4th on the right side as well on this map. But yeah, I'm 111 supply 9 minutes into the game. This is probably the lowest supply one man can possibly be. I'm still trying, though. You know, gotta show a little bit of grit every now and again. Show that you're capable of making comebacks. So I'm trying my best. Stalker's moving in forward, seeing if I can at least poke at him, get some vision with units around it, lose a Zealot for free. Then I see another mine over here. It's like, ooh, that's another opportunity for me to lose a Zealot for free. So I do. Some air leaves my mouth as I'm a little bit upset by how poorly that was managed by me, honestly. I see that he has an army on the bottom side as well, so start warping in a couple of Zealots. But I think my supply is simply too low. I don't think there's very much that I can do here. I don't think there's actually anything that I can do here. Only thing I can do is gamble with a Disruptor, hope that he walks into it. So I'm getting my Disruptors out, but he sees that as well. I'm just getting batteries, cannons. This is such an uncomfortable position to fight anyway, even if you have 5 batteries. Like, all the angles he can take are just kind of good for him. I think this gold base is bait. Now that I look at this game and I think of the build that I could have played, I think this base is actual bait. It's not a good base. It's better to just have this as your base. Like, the gold is wank. And then you just want to expand towards the right side. But I didn't. He moves forward with a bunch of Vikings. I have a super battery in the back, but I mean, there's really no point. I'm trying my best to keep my Zealots alive. I'm even going to send them across the map here. So that he, you know, so that he doesn't just kill them for free. But yeah, I just don't have any Disruptors. I don't have any army. I have 130 army supply. I try to get this kill, but sadly Purification Nova doesn't finish. My Disruptor goes down before it. My Zealot run by is not dealing a lot of damage, and quite frankly, he's completely dead. His Viking control is not great, but if you have 12 Vikings or 10 Vikings against 2 Colossus, and your ground army is also bigger, then I don't think it really matters. So yeah, lose the game, tap out with a GG, not happy, but this was his map, so it's not the end of the world. I knew this was going to be the hardest map in the map pool, and, you know, I tried my best. Next map is going to be the best map for me, which is Golden Aura. As mentioned before in the series against Clem, this is usually the one map that stays in because everyone vetoes Dynasty. And this map is just, yeah, it feels very comfortable to play against Terran, as long as you're planning on playing a macro game. And today I was planning on playing a macro game. I also had some small variations on certain things. So the main thing that I realized Hero Marine does is that he gets very intense with 1-1 upgrades, Vikings and Ghost. And he goes for a big fat push with it. And he does something that we call basically fake macro games. He pretends to be a macro player, but in reality, he's just kind of all-inning of 3 bases, almost every single game. And I thought in order to kind of circumvent this, what I'll do is I completely skip the Colossus phase. So rather than going into Colossus and then Disruptors, I just go straight into Disruptors. This can do 2 things for me. Number 1 is that if he goes for Vikings blindly, he'll be stuck with a lot of useless Vikings. And number 2, it kind of forces him to go into a real macro game where he isn't really prepared for it, because he's not getting quick upgrades most likely. He is not planning on, you know, setting up that insanely fast forward base and high level eco. He just kind of wants to push you with 66 to 72 workers and then kill you or try to take out your forward base and kind of leverage that advantage and then try to go into a fort. So it's a different playstyle from what you see a lot of other Terrans do, who are just really keen on going for it all the way, you know, like for a macro game, that is. So I open up with 4 units before my Warp Gate finishes up, 2 Adepts, 2 Stalkers. I'm gonna send some units over in towards my main, 2 Stalkers. And then I warp in, well actually, okay, I do a 3-3 split. I kind of like this. And I just kind of send these Adepts around to see where he's coming from. I see a Reaper, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Kind of expecting him to go for my Pylon, and he tries to go for my Pylon. And then he tries to go for my natural, but that's where I can just go as well. So I don't feel very worried at all about this. He did this exact build against MaxPax as well. Exact same timings. Very similar movement. MaxPax also managed to make that mine shoot, and then it's completely fine. So I just throw down my Nexus here and kind of take it from here. I felt really comfortable in this position, to be honest. Really, really comfortable. Because this is exactly what I expected. Very often he would get a Liberator behind it or send the Medevac back in. So that's why I'm sending these 3 Stalkers home. There are many people that probably would have kept all those Stalkers out on the map, and it would have been a much better play in this situation. Except I didn't know. I didn't know if there was going to be a Liberator. Maybe I should have only sent 2 Stalkers home, or I should have just warped in 2 Stalkers at home. That might have been better, because then I could have put on some serious pressure here. He had no tank after all, not at this point, and I could have really dealt with this particular attack. I think so, at least. I lose a Stalker pretty much for free, warping in more units. I have an Observer as well. Kind of surprised that he continues pushing me. I'm like, wait, you want to go another round against someone with Blink? It does surprise me. And then I see that he's built a Viking, so he was kind of blindly preparing for Stargate openers. I cleared a Viking with 5 Stalkers, which is a little bit of overkill. But I have so many Stalkers at this point, I feel really comfortable on adding more gateways. I'm getting my charge out. My Observer lost track of his crap though, so that isn't great. But I'm not really afraid of any type of push. I'm just going to start moving across the map. I want to start dealing some damage myself over here. It's going to be my goal. And as I try to do that, I kind of bump into him. It's like, hey, there's a Raven over there, a tank, bunch of Marines, Cyclone. So just move back, lose another Stalker for no real reason. This is somewhat uncomfortable for me, because I don't really want to lose my 3rd base. But at the same time, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, does he actually have that many units? I'm about to have 5 more gateways. Is it really that bad for me? And I don't think it is. So my plan now is just going to be to send in this Zealot. That's going to tank 1 or 2 shots. Blink forward, snipe the Cyclone. And then just snipe the snipe the first tank. Then I see that second tank taking a little bit of damage as well. And trying to siege up. I'm like, I can just kill that as well. It's no problem for me. As I pretty much take him out. Yeah, absolutely take him out over here. Yes, I do end up losing a couple of Stalkers, but most of these will stay alive with some okay-ish micro, blinking them back. Flanking Marine actually kills one of these Stalkers over there. I pull this back home. Oh. Doesn't quite manage to target down that very low Stalker. And I end up surviving. I have an Immortal out. I think you have 5 gateways. And I have a Prism. So a pretty decent army. I see he still has a tank that was about to be rallied across the map. And I think to myself, hey, what's the chance I can actually just move across and straight up kill him? And I'm thinking maybe the chance is pretty decent. I know he still has a Raven somewhere, so I go for a battery. Throwing down a Nexus as well while I'm getting 2 extra gates. And here I was thinking of building a Robo-Bay, but instead I went for my attack upgrade. Didn't want to get my Robo-Bay too quick. No real need. And here I'm like, okay, let me see if I can fix this. There's a lot of units though. I try to warp in 5 more Zealots or 4 more Zealots. Do end up getting cancelled. I kill 2-3 workers, some Marines, but this was not a great defense for me. He does continue chasing him without combat shield. That often is a mistake. So I actually get somewhat of a trade that is okay, I guess. Take out a couple more Marines. Yes, lose the Immortal, but I'm still in control, right? His 3rd is later than my 3rd, significantly later. My 4th is almost done already. And he's going for tanks, so it's unlikely that it's going to be pushing out soon with a lot of mines. Problem is that I lost my Prism, because that was a big tool that I had in my pocket. Or up my sleeve. And now I don't have it anymore. I'm also lacking map vision. I don't have any observers on the map. I'm trying to get some vision by spreading out Zealots. This drop is going to head towards the far right for safety's sake. Once that drop is in position, the moment he moves out, I think I'm going to be in a pretty decent spot. And my Prism here gets spotted and gets attacked. Really upset about that, because I don't think he has any business being out on the map. I actually think it's really dumb for him to be out on the map, especially because he brought one of his tanks as well. It's super risky. And if I would have caught him, if I had an observer anywhere, he would be freaking dead right now. I was really shocked that he decided to do that. I thought it was a crazy, crazy move. Absolutely crazy move. As I still see he's over there. He's like legit nothing. He's a tiny army. And yes, he managed to kill my Prism with it, but there's absolutely no way that this is legit. I get a couple of force fields on him. I end up sniping that medevac as it's loading as well. Try to load up a couple of units. And he's chasing me with his Marines. I don't think he can. I just go for that freaking tank. Do end up getting another kill on the medevac. Warping Zealots on the left side in case he decides to go there. And now I'm like, hey, wait a second. I have double Robo. I can be pumping Disruptors out of here. Get a second Forge. I'm feeling pretty good about my position, to be quite honest. I feel very good about my position, to be honest. Like, this is exactly what I want. Where I have pretty much full map control. I see his fort base going up just now. Like, there's no way he can start pushing me. I'm getting a 5th about the same time he's getting his 4th. Like, all he can do is just sit back and relax. But that is not the style that he wants to play at all, usually. So I'm very happy. I got him exactly where I want him to. As long as he doesn't get any map control, I can go across the map and start dishing out some damage with these Disruptors. Do need a decent Disruptor count in order for that to be a valid play. You need like 4 or 5 Disruptors. Then you can start shoving some bullets in his direction. Not before that. I also wish I had a Prism with this, so I can just go into the main base, you know? I think that's generally quite a good move. Going in main bases, Zealot run-bys, that type of shenanigans. So I have vision with my observer. So I see where he's going. I know he's not base trading. If he's base trading, I just kill his 3rd base and then recall. But he's not trying to do that right now. So another Purification Nova in forward. It's not quite working out. But I can keep sending these and they don't cost me any money. I'm expanding behind all of this. I think he's trying to attack me right now. I saw that on the minimap. I'm like, ah, no shot, buddy. No shot. Does he get a kill here on my Immortal? Of course he doesn't. I get a kill here on his mine. Warping some more Stalkers. Saturate my 5th base as well. And I'm just in a good spot. I'm not getting any hits, which does suck, but he is using a lot of stims here. And that also costs overtime. I think it's one of the things that I sometimes underestimate is how much energy it costs for the medevacs to heal up a Marauder army that stims a bunch. Like, if you just force out stims the entire time, your opponent is not getting a better army. That is a huge deal. Like, units will start getting in the orange at some point, you know? And here I go for a blink to the left side. Still think I have slightly too many Zealots in my army, to be honest. Doesn't feel entirely necessary. Like, they don't really vibe very well with the rest of my army. Like, he goes for another massive stim as I blink forward to snipe his Liberators. My Disruptor count just continues to grow as well, which is of course great. Get more stalkers out. Probably should have gotten some more cannons as well here at this point. I think getting cannons generally is a cool move, rather than the 6th base. Helps so much in this type of situation as well. Freaking love that type of stuff. Almost hit my own zealot, but not quite. Love to see it. I think I should be more careful with how I micro my zealots in general in fights. Too often they just fly forward like a bunch of idiots. Definitely not what you want. Prism has now arrived with my army. I really think I should try and fly it into the main base to go for a big warp in there. I think that would be huge. But instead I'm just going to continue pushing, which is also a pretty big move. He doesn't have a massive army, so I'm afraid of a flank. Then I see him moving across the map, so I warp in some DTs defensively. Blink forward on top of this orbital command. That's of course hopefully his only orbital command that he has. DT in his natural gets cleaned up. So now it's going to be 6 base versus 3 base. And here I'm thinking to myself, hey, I can continue fighting or I can recall back home. If I recall back home, I just clean up his army and have a very easy game. If I continue fighting, I have the possibility of still losing the game. So I decide to continue fighting to make this game a little bit more exciting, as I'm not really winning the fight over here, as I'm not taking my sweet time. I mean, I'm hitting Purification Novas, which is great. He gets a drop into my 3rd. He already killed my 5th base, which I'm now trying to rebuild. This is a terrible position for me to fight in as well. So I'm losing a bunch of these zealots. Army here looks kind of small, but I don't have any immortals in this force, so it's not like you can really burst through easily. Like, you really need to be careful. Purification Novas do once again hit a little bit. I'm not cleaning up this army at all, by the way. Like, not whatsoever. It's not even close. And I'm losing a lot of supply. At this point, I remember thinking, uh-oh, did I just mess this up? And I actually thought I did mess it up, because I'm about to lose my freaking 3rd base. I don't have a recall towards my 3rd. Colossus is going to help me stay alive. Could still lose this base, of course, which would uber suck. But he's just going to piss off, as he's going to end up sniping a couple of my disruptors. Almost all of them, actually. Actually, all of them. And here I thought that I'd lost. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my god, I completely threw this out of the window. He comes back in with another drop. He was really outplaying me here, to be honest. Like, this was an unlosable situation for me. And I'm doing my best to try and lose this. Like, actually, my best to try and lose. He is pure Medivacs at this point. Pure freaking Medivacs. This should never work in a million years. So the Colossus is a good call. Colossus can, of course, easily target down these Marines as well. Look how big that is. That helps so much. The difference between targeting Marauders and Marines is a big deal. And here he tries to go for a flank, but that flank isn't valid anymore. So he kind of gets cleaned up. I still have the gold base as the 6th, which is helping me out so freaking much right now. And I'm going to start sending in DTs into his 3rd base, if there is a 3rd base. I don't know if he's rebuilt that yet. I don't have any serious splash, though. I have a single Colossus without thermal lance. He has a freaking turret. He responds so fast. I was shocked by this. How quick was that response, eh? That was pretty crazy, I thought. I actually really thought that was crazy. He's gonna, yeah, the bad guy is going to get picked up. I send in more zealots as well, because I kind of want to force him back, because I know I'm outmining him. I believe I have better upgrades as well. Continue to send zealots in, but yeah, I almost completely threw this game. Now I feel like I'm somewhat back in control. Not completely back in control, because I don't know if he has the 9 o'clock base. The 5th base mining or not. It's possible that he has it. I'm not aware of it. Now I'm like, wait a second. I could just go into the main base. Why would I be stuck sitting here on the low ground if I can just fly into the main? I realized this so late. This was very poorly outplayed. I think I'm just not very good in the Protoss versus Terran matchup. Like, I think it's definitely my weakest. I often don't realize quite what I'm supposed to do. As I push him back here, he taps out with a GG, and I shake my head because I know this should have been much easier, but it really wasn't. But a win in the end anyway, so that is hopeful going into the rest of the series. And the rest of the series starts on Amphion, the map where I still truly believe in the Phoenix. As this map, well, you really can't believe in Twilight. That's why I believe in the Phoenix. It's not so much that I believe in the Phoenix, as that is I don't believe in Twilight on this map. You can basically fly with a medevac through that space from the main base to the 3rd base without me being capable of touching it. So I don't believe it's possible to ever defend something if they just put like Ravens in that space or medevacs with mines in that space. It seems extremely difficult. So yeah, I just decided that I was going to play some Phoenix on this map, and I had a build prepared. had a build ready to go for that. And it's very similar to the build that I made a guide on about a month and a half ago. Playing it a little more greedy, less safe. Because things that are less safe are usually more fun. It's definitely the case in StarCraft 2. I'm just going to go for, I guess, a 19 Nexus. Sounds about correct. Amphion, by the way, is one of the maps. Not many people know this. Where you get less money in the early game. So all your timings are completely off. If you live by the clock, then you're going to be in trouble on this map. Because everything's just delayed. Like the patches are a little bit further away in the main base. It feels freaking weird. I hate it. I'm not a fan of these weird incomes in the main base. Just give me normal mineral income, mate. That's what I want in life. Got a second gas here. But yeah, I wasn't feeling super hot so far in this year. I didn't feel like I played too well. I felt like my build order choices were good and my theory was good, but the execution part wasn't super happy with. Not super happy with it. But 1-1. It's great watching yourself back. Look at me, sweaty hands probably. I already took off my sweater as well. I got a little bit superstitious during this tournament, I'm not gonna lie. So, up until this moment, every single time when I took off my sweater, I started winning games. So I took off my sweater after game 4 versus Showtime and after game 3 versus Skillless. So I had a 100% win rate. And versus Hero Marine, I took it off after game 1. So currently I'm 4-0 with the sweater off, which is pretty crazy, you know? And I'm not a superstitious man, but it worked. So I became a superstitious man. You know, it's crazy how it works. I know that's not, you know, that's not the reason why I win games, but it felt like it. And I truly started believing. I became a believer. So I cleared this Reaper. I was very happy with that. As I went across the map, saw that he went for most likely a Reaper expand, 2 Marines before Reactor. I was like, okay, that's a build. That is definitely a build. I don't mind playing against that. I think I played a little bit too passive maybe with this adapt. I think I definitely could have done a bit more damage. And that shade was absolutely terrible. Like, that shade was too late. It should have happened faster. End up getting just a single Marine kill and a little bit of damage on the next Marine. But that's not really what I signed up for. Phoenix is now start. Trying to figure out what he's up to. Getting a second gate as well. I actually forgot, by the way. So, this is really sad. I forgot to mine the minerals in between. And now I realize, I'm like, oh my god, I'm an idiot. I remember feeling really stupid about this, because the goal was to get a fast third base on this map, because it's hard for the opponent to attack. Okay, now I see triple CC, and I had pretty much expected him to play that on this map. It's a very good build on this map, because Phoenix is one of the only viable things. As a result, a lot of people start playing triple CC, because they know people are going to play Phoenix. But then when people play triple CC, Twilight is good against that. So people start playing Factory again. It's kind of like a dance. A weird dance. But I mean, I don't mind Phoenix too much against triple CC. It's not the end of the world if you're just taking a fast third, which I can't because I forgot to mine these minerals like an idiot. And also, I got supply blocked here pretty badly. I'm expecting him to move across the map because this is 3 racks. I lose a Phoenix for free for no reason, which is what for free pretty much means. And I got an SCV kill, but that doesn't really count. Actually, I was very upset about that loss, not gonna lie. Because my goal was to get such a high Phoenix count that it would be useful against a potential Marine push, basically. I was like, okay, I'm just going to get so many freaking Phoenixes that by the time he arrives, I either have such a large force that I can easily counterattack with them, or I can actually use them defensively at home, because I really want to crush the incoming push that is most likely going to come. You know, that really was my plan. I was thinking that, I was like, man, that's a sick plan, Kevin. God, you're such a genius. How did you come up with this plan, Harstem? Brain the size of a freaking watermelon. One of them fat watermelons as well. 10 kilo watermelons. Why are watermelons actually so big? What's the evolutionary benefit to that? This was the supply block of a lifetime, by the way, at 70 supply. I think it was supply block for almost 35 seconds here. I was really sad about that. Because I lost so much pro production and also a lot of workers or a lot of units that I could have been building. Then here he comes in. I hit my first force field. kind of hit my second force field, but not entirely. My third force field wasn't quite ready yet. I used a super battery. I used the phoenixes defensively. I lose one phoenix, I think. I still defend. But honestly, this defense should have been so much better. Like, I should have lost basically none of my important units. Kept all of my probes alive. And I would have been in a 6th spot. Here, I am also very late on starting my charge upgrade, which I start now. I'm like, oh my god. 6 minutes and 10 seconds into the game, I don't have a freaking charge upgrade. This is not a good look, boys. Which is what I realized. I'm like, okay. Let me just get a robotics facility. I hope I get that now. Oh, after my next Phoenix. Yeah, it's still fine. But I don't have freaking charge. So if he decides to attack me right now, that would actually suck. Like, so hard. I got a robotics facility at my 3rd base. I check what he's doing. Okay, he's picking off these things. So we both expand towards one another. I really need the charge right now. Like, I'm so aware of that. If he moves out, I'm freaking dead. I add another battery in here. Want to get some vision in the middle of the map. Like, this is so bad for me. So bad for me. Because without charge, you just can't fight. Want to get a 4th base as well. He moves in. Should probably preemptively force fielded this ramp. Because now, I don't know what this is, but it is not it, as the kids would say. Try to pull back some of my zealots. Try to attack here with my phoenixes. As a result, I end up just losing 1 or 2 of these phoenixes. Maybe even 3. 3 phoenixes go down. And I barely get to clean this up. But once you start losing phoenixes and you don't have any follow-up tech, life usually is quite bad for you. So, yeah, losing phoenix is something I never really recommend. I could potentially get a, what do you call that thing? Robo Bay, as well as maybe a 4th base at this point. Just kind of trying to figure out what he's up to, but after losing all my sentries, my phoenixes, like the amount of gas units that I had and don't have anymore is really bad. I think during this game I lost like 5 or 6 phoenixes and all of them unprovoked. I'm just trying to figure out what he has. I see a lot of units. I'm gonna get a kill here on this mule. So I fly away with my phoenixes. And I fly into 2 mines, and I think here I don't really believe in it anymore. Like, I can still try and hold this, but also not really. So go for the double force fields. He can just pick up if he wants to. He target fired there with the mines. I really wanted him to, you know, go onto my phoenixes, but that didn't happen at all. So then I could maybe mine drag on top of him. First Colossus now starts. Trying to take out these mines. End up losing 2 stalkers for it. I just don't have the army. Prism goes in. Does get some damage done here, which is nice. But at the same time, he just has way too many units, as I'm forced into leaving here with a big fat GG. Terrible game. Wasn't happy with it, especially because it felt like my responses were good, just the execution is what was lacking. So like the theoretical responses were good, but then I just didn't play so well. I was supply blocked for an entire minute in like an 8-minute game, which is not quite good. Wasn't happy with that, so we'll head into our 4th game. And despite not being happy with that, I still felt fairly comfortable in this series. I really felt like all my theoretical responses were good. It was just an issue with the execution. So I took a small break, thought about everything. I was like, okay, here we go. I'm ready to go. I scouted that he didn't have a barracks at home, so I decided to go for a high ground pylon with a battery on the high ground, and then defend by basically just chrono boosting out stalkers. That was going to be my entire plan. I don't lose a single worker here. Ladies and gentlemen, all workers stay alive. That is pretty freaking impressive, not gonna lie. Almost get a kill as well on that Reaper, which made me sad, but also happy at the same time. Because, you know, it felt good. I think actually that pylon and battery should be swapped in position, because then the battery is in range of the Nexus for it to be a super battery, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. As we have... do we have? 2nd Reaper coming in. I was looking for the barracks because I didn't see the 2nd Reaper. I was like, wait, what's kicking off here? Maybe it's like a Marauder follow-up. That is a possibility, of course. I'm just continuing my probe production as well. It's getting a Twilight. 3rd Stalker as well. Feeling good about life. And as long as I don't lose any probes and I don't lose these Stalkers, it doesn't matter that I'm lacking some mining from this base right now. Because his base also isn't done yet, you know? Like, that's a fact. His CC isn't finished quite yet. I do miss a couple of shots on that SCV, which actually did sadden me a tiny tad. But now that my 3rd Stalker is out, I should be capable of just clearing this relatively easily, if I'm not mistaken. Just trying to target down that Stalker. Doesn't work. I move these Stalkers back, but I kill this SCV, so he needs to go for it. He tries to commit, and as a result, loses both of his Reapers. And I'm feeling really good about all this. My blink maybe starts a little bit late, but I have freaking 4 Stalkers. I'm going to be capable of warping in another one. I have a good unit count. I didn't take any eco damage, except for mining time lost. Like, life is actually really good for me. Just going to throw down a robotics facility in case he decides to go for Banshee. And if he does that, then, I mean, that would suck, but... actually, it wouldn't. I think it would just be fine. My robo is just in time, so it wouldn't suck. It would be fine. It would be okay. Like, my response is good. I'm feeling very solid about everything. I'm thinking about taking a 3rd base already, because I don't think he can really push me. His barracks is on my side of the map, which means he's not going to have a marine count. The only thing he can do is go for a mine drop, a cyclone drop, or some type of Banshee harass, or like tank into Raven, like a more standard approach. And now I see this coming in. It's a mine drop. I know this all too well. I just pull my probes away. Gonna be absolutely fine. So I pull my probes to the left. I lose 14 workers to a single mine shot. Then I lose 1 more to this mine. And 1 more. Well, he just picks it up. 2 mines remain. And with 14 workers lost, usually the game is over. I had a 3rd base already on the way as well, so it's not like I could quickly pivot into like a 3-gate pressure. I'm still going to try to do something. I'm going to get a Dark Shrine over here, defend with a couple of Stalkers, while at the same time also attacking with a couple of Stalkers. But it's a bad situation. It was just right on the edge. So what happened here is that I clicked my probes to my main base, and as a result they went first a bit to the left, and then they went down. I should have just clicked them to the left side so that they would have been out of range of the mine. It was really, really close. I thought I was in time to do this, but I think I misunderstood the way they were going to walk a bit, or I just was wrong. It's also possible. Well, I mean, I definitely was wrong. That's not something we can really debate. It's not a debatable issue because I lost my workers, 14 workers, but still some hope. I have a Dark Shrine on the way. Yes, he has a Raven, which sucks. But at the same time, he also has a good micro. He just lost a tank, and if I get to snipe that Raven, he probably doesn't have turrets ready. So a Raven is kind of... It gives a lot of safety against DTs, but at the same time, because people have a Raven, they often feel safe against DTs, and they don't take any precautions anymore. They don't get turrets, they don't save scans. That is something people often forget. So my goal here absolutely is to clear that Raven. If I can get to it, that would be great. So I'm trying to bait it out by kind of sending this observer here. Maybe I should have just sent a bit closer by. But I was just thinking, man, if I can get this observer, you know, just if he tries to go there with an auto turret, that would be super sick for me. I think that would be so nice. As here he decides to just kind of start moving out, pushing me back. It's going to be his goal soon. My goal is to not die and then counterattack with 2 DTs. That's literally the only thing I want in life right now. I'm afraid he's going for drops as well, by the way. Like, really afraid that he's going for drops. Here he shows up. I warp in 2 DTs. He has no combat shield quite yet. I don't see a Raven with this army either. I'm like, oh, where the heck is your Raven, mate? He's gonna send this into his main. Don't have a battery ready yet at this base. I wish I had a sentry to block this ramp. Could maybe buy a little bit more time as the Raven now shows up. I'm really kind of happy about that. Sure, I lose some mining time, but at the same time it also means he doesn't have a Raven at home. That means that my DTs could potentially be dealing some damage as I snipe this Raven as well. But yeah, he already has a turret going up. I try to pick it up here in the natural. Get a couple of kills, but it's not quite enough. His army is just too big. He has a 3rd base as well. I don't have a 3rd base anymore. I don't have a battery in my natural. If I had a super battery here in my natural, maybe I can hold at least temporarily. Maybe with good infrastructure I can do something, but even then it's fairly unlikely. Like, let's face it, he's just so far up in workers and in eco. Like, getting 3 orbital commands is going to be huge. He's going to have upgrades, which I don't. Life is not great for me right now. So my final type of desperation play is going to be to try and catch these 2 medevacts. I was really hoping I could get it, but I think he boosts away here in the end as well. Then my next goal is hope to catch him while he goes out for a drop or out for a move out. And maybe I can catch his army, I thought. Like, if he thinks I'm double expanding or something, or just expanding whatsoever, he might try and move on the map. So my plan was to just kind of wait for that. Just stay on 2 base forever, keep warping in units, and hope he takes the worst fight in the world. Then I lose my observer as well, but I see him moving out. His army is too big, so I go around. Maybe he can make a bad decision. That's what I was hoping for. Maybe I can clear a command center while he's not paying attention. Trick him into going for a base trade and then kill all of his orbitals. And maybe with DTs I can somehow win. But yeah, he just comes back after he sees me show up. And my army simply isn't big enough to deal with this. And as a result, the only thing left for me to do at this point is tap out with a fat GG. He has tanks. Not happy with it. Still trying though. Getting some sentry targets. Was a good run. So I tap out with a GG. No point staying in. It's absolutely over. Ay. Now that's the end of my run, and this is going to be my run kind of visualized. 2-0 versus Uthermal, 2-0 versus Lambo, 1-2 versus Rainer, 2-0 versus Gong Fu Banda. Then in the bracket stage, I went 3-0 versus Wayne, 0-3 versus Clem, 3-2 versus Skillis, 3-2 versus Showtime, 3-1 versus Hero Marine, and out in 6th place. The top 4 ends up getting, so basically 1 round further, gets a good seat into Dallas. I will still be going to Dallas in the open bracket. If MaxPax doesn't show up for Dallas, which is fairly likely, the spot will not go to me or Rainer, but just to Rainer. I was kind of hoping we would play a match because we ended on the same place, but because he has more points in the EPT system, he gets the seat. I think it's a dumb rule, but it is what it is. So he gets the seat for Dallas. I'll need to play through the open bracket. Yeah, that's pretty much the result of this. As you see what I won. I think I won a couple of thousand. $3,500. Nice. 330 points, so maybe next time I play better seating or something like that. Yeah, this was basically like it wasn't really a qualifier, it's a tournament by itself, but also a qualifier at the same time for the Spring Masters to Dallas. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Took a little bit longer to make than I wanted it to. So yeah, but here we are on the Monday. Still get it. And yeah, that's it for me. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you all next time for a new one. Ciao, ciao.